Mbombela is going to be fine, 11 to 21. Polokwane fine, 7 to 20. Mahikeng will have some frost around this morning, otherwise be fine from -1 to 18. Vryburg, -7 to 19. Morning frost, otherwise fine. Bloemfontein, some frost around, otherwise fine and windy. -6 to 14. Kimberley also cold, some morning frost, otherwise fine and windy, -5 to 16. Uppington is morning frost, otherwise fine and windy, -1 to 17. Cape Town today, cloudy, isolated showers and rain, light and variable wind this morning and this evening, otherwise a light to moderate northwesterly this afternoon, 9 to a high of just 14. George is partly cloudy, a moderate to fresh northwesterly to westerly, 5 to 16. Gqeberha fine, a moderate to fresh westerly to northwesterly, 8 to 17. East London is fine, light to moderate westerly. It'll become southwesterly at times, 8 to 19. Durban is cloudy, isolated showers and rain. It'll become partly cloudy this afternoon with a moderate to fresh northerly to northwesterly in the morning. Otherwise, a fresh southwester, 13 to 20. Richards Bay is cloudy, isolated showers and rain. It'll become partly cloudy by the afternoon, a moderate to fresh southerly to southwesterly, 14 to 22. And Pietermaritzburg, cloudy, isolated showers and rain. It'll become partly cloudy by the afternoon, 6 to a high of 18 degrees.
Welcome to the SABC TV License Loyalty Program, where your payment isn't just about paying fees. It's about joining a vibrant community of connected viewers. Ready for the journey? Here's your roadmap. Sign up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and unlock an instant reward. You'll get an SMS to confirm your registration. Make a 50% or 100% payment to your account for a payment confirmation SMS and a promotional code. Explore our partners' product catalogs for an array of offerings. Receive an SMS voucher for your favorite outlet as the icing on the cake. Don't wait. Dive into a world of benefits. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. SAFm's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysaffair.co.za. Tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 returns
in South Africa and Germany. The African Giants and Europe's well-decorated outfit are both chasing the vital points. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa faces Germany on Tuesday, 30 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes. For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
27 minutes past 6. Israel has vowed that Hezbollah will, quote, pay the price. They blamed the Lebanese militant group for a rocket attack in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights that killed 12 children, touching on fears of all-out war could envelop that region. Roland Henwood is political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. Roland, thank you very much. Good morning. All-out war, is that happening up north of Israel now as well?
Good morning. That's the fear, not happening at this stage, and all indications are that although you have quite serious incidents continuing and you have retaliatory attacks from Israel, it is unlikely that it will. The design is at this stage one of an all-out war, probably more a measured response to register serious unhappiness, but not to the point where it will automatically trigger an all-out war.
Hezbollah is saying they have attacked the Golan Heights, but they weren't responsible for this attack where the children were killed. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's to be expected. No one is going to just accept responsibility for an attack such as this, where obviously it's not a war zone in the sense that you shoot rockets and it lands on a school soccer game. So that is a no-no in anyone's books. This is probably one of those incidents that have been warned about for quite some time, that the using of rockets in the area is at one stage going to lead to some form of miscalculation or some kind of incident that may carry the risk of not only civilian targeting, but also creating a much bigger conflict in the region.
That was my next question. Iran has warned Israel against any new adventures, quote unquote, aimed at Lebanon. Israel have already gone and retaliated in Lebanon. What is Iran going to do about this?
Well, this is the fear, is that it's not necessarily only Israel attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon, but Iran getting involved. And we've seen one incident where that happened, where there was a direct exchange of fire between Israel and Iran. And that, of course, has huge implications, not only for the two countries, but for the region and globally. It can have quite serious consequences. So Iran, at this stage, probably not likely to assist or push for an open conflict, and also not through its proxy forces, because Hezbollah is a proxy force of Iran. So probably more rhetoric and some retaliatory firing of rockets, but unlikely it seems that this is going to be something that is opening another front to the north of Israel.
And just quickly, what do Israeli allies and other big countries across the world have to say about this?
Well, of course, there are different levels of engagement. The shock and horror of what happened on the one hand, but on the other hand, calls for calm and measured responses to prevent an all-out conflict in the region.
I'm going to have to leave it there. Roland Henwood, thank you very much. Political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria, brings us to 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the 95 Libyan nationals arrested at a camp resembling a military training base in Masoi near White River in Mpumalanga are expected to appear in court today. Former President Jacob Zuma has 20 days in which to appeal his expulsion from the ANC. Zuma's expulsion has been revealed in leaked draft documents which are in possession of the SABC. And 5 people have been killed in a shooting incident in Freedom Park, Phase 1 in Rustenburg in the northwest. The incident happened on Saturday night. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. You've been on your couch or in front of the cameras watching Olympic Games. Somebody has to do it, eh?
I don't know how are we keeping up with it? There's just like serious AHDDD stuff. There's just so much. But,
all of the channels running. What's happening?
Oh, what a weekend, I think, for Team South Africa. The Blitz box kicking off that medal hunt. Bronze in the Rugby Sevens tournament, beating Australia. Thank you very much. But let's go to swimming fans. They will be on the edge of their seats as Peter Coetzee and Tatiana Smith dive into the pool for their respective finals. Coetzee broke his own African record, and that was in the 100-meter backstroke semi-final. He clocked an impressive 52.63 seconds. Now, Tatiana Smith, on the other hand, was the fastest in the 100-meter breaststroke semi-finals. Let's hear from Smith after her impressive swim.
I'm just so grateful to be swimming some good times as well. I haven't been close to my time since Tokyo, so this is my best time since Tokyo. So I think obviously it's amazing to swim in good times, but I think most of all I'm really enjoying every race and I'm much happier. So it doesn't matter what the times are. I think just me personally experiencing those races and just being happy is exactly what I want to be in this time.
So both Tatiana, together with Peter Coetzee, they are strong podium contenders, and their performance will be pivotal for Team South Africa's medal tally. Now, in the realm of cycling, Alan Hatherley is set to compete in the men's cross-country race this afternoon. Ranked second in the world, Hatherley is among the favourites to clinch a medal. And despite her strong start, cyclist Candice Leal faced tough competition in the women's cross-country mountain bike contest. She was initially positioned herself well, but ultimately finished 20th, and this was due to her tyre bursting, so definitely a commendable effort there. Our rowing duo of John Smith and Christopher Baxter, they advanced to the semi-finals. They finished second in their first heat, and the semi-final race is on tomorrow at 2:10. On the hockey field, the SA men's team, they put up quite a performance, drawing 2-2 against Great Britain in their second pool match. In the women's team, they fought hard in their opening game, but unfortunately they lost 2-1 to Australia. Other results: South Africa's fencer Harry Sainer eliminated in the opening round of the men's individual EP competition, and Alexander Pietenel finishing 51st in the men's individual event cross-country equestrian tournament, and Boipelo Aua placed 18th in the women's street skateboarding competition. There was also a setback for artistic gymnast Caitlin Rooskrantz, who had to withdraw from the all-round competition due to an injury. Rooskrantz, who carried the SA flag alongside sprinter Akani Simbine at the opening ceremony, injured her right foot during the qualifying round of the floor exercise. She will be undergoing an MRI scan to determine if she can compete in individual apparatus events, and that's later this week. Now, it's been a mix of highs and lows for Team South Africa, but you know what? We're keeping it high with the spirit and hope our athletes will continue to inspire us. In the meantime, closer to home, Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nazruddin Nabi has called for calm after seeing his team hammered 4-0 by Tanzanian champions Young Africans in a pre-season Toyota Cup friendly match in front of a sold-out crowd at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein yesterday. Cricket: Mark Wood took 5 wickets in a devastating spell of fast bowling as England wrapped up a 3-0 series victory over the West Indies with an emphatic 10-wicket win in the third test. And we also have some action as well from basketball. South Sudan, representing the continent, they kicked off their Olympic basketball campaign with a 90-79 win over Puerto Rico in Group C. And that's where we'll leave it for now. We'll bring you more sport. That's at the top of the hour. For SAfm, I'm Zai Khan.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty busy start this Monday morning for Gauteng motorists. A stationary vehicle inside Galuli's interchange, the N3 North, for your connections out to the airport or down to Boksburg and Benoni, is restricted to one lane. So the N3 heavily backed up from Elan's interchange. Other side of town, a breakdown before the William Mandela Drive exit to 4 ways on the M1 North. That traffic parking back heavily in a big queue beyond Malabongwe and back to Bayers Nordia. And a crash on Pretoria's N1 North at Garsfontein Road. 2 lanes are closed. Heavy standstill traffic back through to Rigel Avenue. If you're coming southbound, you won't get through there unscathed either. The onlooking factor slowing things between Atterbury and Rigel this morning. Durban's Kwamashu Highway, fairly busy already from Duffs Road down towards the N2 highway. And Cape Town, if you're driving inbound on the N2, there's a broken down vehicle in the right lane at the airport exit, so that's put some real pressure on the N2 inbound from Khayelitsha. N1 is open with all lanes this morning, all lanes open at Sable Road, so that flooding that caused problems last week has receded. There is a backlog of traffic, however. It's a busy one, busy on all the highways, but that N1 coming through from Plattekloof Road down towards the Kuburg interchange, looking fairly busy. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
The business update on SAfm.
Let's find out what's happening on the markets. And Tualeng Lechela is our business reporter. And Tualeng, good morning to you. Inflation, or cooling of inflation, means maybe the Americans will lower a rate cut. What does that mean?
Well, morning, John. That's right. The personal consumption expenditure price index came in line with expectations in June, rising to 2.5% year on year and 0.1% on a monthly basis. Now, the PCE print is a key measure of inflation watched by the Federal Reserve, and this decrease suggests that the central bank may lower interest rates by September. Now, as this comes also as many economists expect. Now, the lower inflation rate gives the Fed room to make a cut to help the economy. Meanwhile, core inflation, which excludes food and energy, slowed on a monthly basis to 0.2% and 2.6% on a yearly basis. This also comes in line with expectations. Policymakers focus even more on core as a better gauge of longer run trends, as gas and groceries costs tend to fluctuate more than other items. Now, this report comes ahead of the Fed's meeting. Policymakers are meeting this week, with many economists expecting the Fed to keep rates unchanged this month and monitor other prints as they come out.
And some good news coming out of China.
So the sector's industrial companies have delivered strong profits in June. It seems like they're performing well despite a downbeat Chinese economy. In the second quarter, that economy slowed to 4.7%, spooking many investors as it came in under analyst expectations. Now, profits from the industrial sector, however, topped expectations. Data shows that profits rose 3.6% year on year last month, followed by a 0.7% gain in May, while first half earnings were up 3.5%, accelerating from a 3.4% increase in the first quarter. State-owned firms, in the meantime, reported profits up 0.3%. Now, economists are pegging an even better second half performance, saying that China's efforts to prop up the economy will bode well for businesses. This month alone, we've seen Chinese policymakers announce 2 sets of stimulus measures to boost the economy, consumer spending, as well as that failing property sector.
And what's happening in the markets?
Before we take a look at today's move, let's start off with how markets closed last week. We're starting off with the US. Now, stocks on Wall Street staged a recovery on Friday, with all indices closing in the green. Traders have been digesting easing inflation numbers, as mentioned at the top, and an upbeat US GDP print. Over in Asia, stocks mostly trading higher following the broadly positive cues from Wall Street on Friday. This amid rising optimism of an interest rate cut by the Fed as early as September, and possibly another 1 or 2 by the end of the year after the latest readings on the nation's inflation. Back at home, positivity filtering through to the JSE, with local markets ending in the green. The all share ticked up 0.5% in Friday's close. In the currency markets, the rand trading slightly stronger under the 1830 markets, trading at 18.28 to the dollar at the moment.
Ntaoleng Lechela, thank you very much. More than Ntaoleng in an hour's time.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
It's 20 minutes, make it 19 minutes to 7 if you want to get specific. We're going to have more sport and traffic coming up in a moment. Let's get an update on what is happening in the city of Johannesburg now. Margaret Arnold's faced snipes and jeers as disgruntled residents. Organised by civic society bodies vented their frustration over service delivery over the weekend. They're under the banner the Joburg Crisis Alliance. Find out a little bit more with that with Ishmael Mkabela, co-convener of the Joburg Crisis Alliance. How was your protest on Saturday, Ishmael?
A good start, a good beginning, well attended, well represented, and yes, the message was clear. Kwamanda must go, together with its ineffective coalition in the city.
You handed over a memorandum. What are you asking from the city of Johannesburg?
We call upon the city to accept that we cannot continue to accept inefficient governance, a broken government, and therefore we are calling upon the mayor and his mayoral committee to disband. The mayor, of course, must resign with immediate effect, because we don't think we have a mayor. We have a front who is powerless and ineffective, cannot steer the city towards the direction which it must go. So both civil society, business, and other political organizations are saying we need a leader who can lead this city. We currently don't have any.
The mayor's hit back at you, saying that he's being attacked just because he is a black man.
He's not blacker than I. I think we cannot hide under color or race. This man is just not representing the best that black people can do. I would say personally that black children are the people who are mentoring. And when we see bad habits among black children, we also have to raise our voices. It can be true for white kids. They will not hide under their skin color. Public life demands accountability and not justifying not doing the right thing.
You wanted to hand the memorandum to the mayor, but then the Speaker of the City of Johannesburg came out. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, that was arranged that he will not be able to come himself personally, but we will rather hand it through the Speaker because she will convey it to the office of the Executive Mayor. So that was an arrangement which was agreed upon prior to the social action.
All of these protests, and when you hand over a memorandum, there's got to be a deadline. So what is the deadline you're expecting from the city?
The deadline, we expect that within a month, we will not have Kwamanda as our executive mayor. But at the same time, we are going to reach out to the speaker to get a definite date where we are going to get a feedback on that demand. And if it needs further action, we are there to take it beyond words and petitions.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this an ongoing situation? Will there be protests outside of the Civic Centre every Saturday or during the week, or is it just now you sit and wait?
No, we shall not exhaust ourselves by doing one and the same thing. We have made a message is clear enough. What we need is a response as to when is the executive mayor vacating his position, and that is the only message which we are waiting for. And if none, then we'll have to take further steps and further actions until we have achieved what we want.
Let's talk about some of the issues. Obviously, the mayor is the one, Ishmael, but what other issues are you hoping will be repaired or fixed in Johannesburg?
Well, what we're looking at is that citizens must actually get confidence that there's a leader, there's someone driving this city towards prosperity and development. At the moment, we are aware that there are unplanned electricity disruptions as well as water. And we are also aware that we have broken systems, we have hijacked buildings. We still find that many things which are not happening correct. No one is there to account. For instance, those who are responsible for Sindoso building where 77 people died, we still wait for someone to be accountable. But we also find that the current regime hides inefficiencies because there's those who don't perform well, those who are responsible for Johannesburg properties, hijacked buildings, state-owned properties or municipality-owned properties, they're not taking accountability as to what is happening there. Chaos seems to be rewarded. Illegality, there's no. Those who want to do the work, we believe, are professionals, those who are employed as civil servants. But without efficient leadership, they will not be able to fulfill their job. So urban management is suffering, not because we don't have skilled people. We just don't have leaders who will create the environment for performance and people being rewarded for fulfilling their key performance indicators. So this is what all stakeholders in the city, be they property owners, those who are looking after the environment, city improvement districts, and those who are trading in the city, be they small businesses, you find that there's always ever planning, but never implementation. We still have street traders and others who are still not being well catered for. So we all need those things to be addressed.
You're protesting, makes sense. Everybody has a right to protest. Has all this been brought to the ward councillor, who then goes into council and then raises those issues for us? Is that process broken as well?
Well, you need to know that corruption the rot starts at the head. There are many ward councillors which are not working because they are also run along party lines. You find that if a ward councillor doesn't want to be accountable, will just stay away from a ward meeting, and that meeting won't happen because the ward councillor is a chairperson. So we can look at every level of city leadership and find that maybe citizens need to get directly involved in governing that thing and make it and take charge of what is happening. So it is time for citizens, residents, and all to become active to ensure that where the ward council is not working must actually be removed. Not only Gwamanda, but I think Gwamanda is just an amateur who could maybe go and exercise his skills at ward level before he can actually find himself running the city.
Okay. When's the next protest planned?
We shall not. We don't have a program or the dates on which we'll take action, but if action is required, any moment we can come together, group together, and take action and demand what is achievable and what we think is the right thing to stand for. It's not just a matter of action or protest for own its sake. We are standing up for specific things which must be addressed by all who are affected. In fact, if we look at the residents' associations around this city, in townships, in suburbs, they are already protesting, but we think that we need to coordinate that because we are taking action against same individuals who continue to ignore all those who are protesting, be it burning of tires and smashing of cars and property. That is not effective. This time, we really want to ensure that we achieve what we want as residents and stakeholders.
Ishmael Mkabela, thank you very much. Co-convener of the Joburg Crisis Alliance, which is the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Defend Our Democracy organization undoing tax abuse, Action for Accountability, the Johannesburg Inner City Partnership, and the Rivonia Circle. They've all come together under the Joburg Crisis Alliance.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Some obstructions at all the wrong places, really, across Gauteng. Got a breakdown on the N1 North before William Mandela Drive, exit to four-ways. That traffic's all the way back through to 14th Avenue this morning. 2 lanes are currently obstructed on that busy section of the N1. So from Veldfrieden Park through Randburg into four-ways is a bit of a mess. The N3 is pretty heavily backed as well. Might want to avoid this. It's a broken down vehicle inside Giluli's interchange. Only 1 lane open as you come off the N3 North onto the R24 Airport Highway, or trying to get through the Boksburg and Benoni connections onto the N12E. So very heavy all the way back to Elan's interchange that run through the cement factory and up through Van Buren, really badly backed up. There's also just been a crash on the M1 South before Olifantsfontein Road. That's also in the wrong place this morning in terms of big volume route. So the N1 from Brockfontein through that scene and then down to New Road is heavy. And in Pretoria, a crash blocking 2 lanes on the M1 running north in towards Garsfontein. So that's a really big queue getting back almost to the R21 highway exit. Southbound traffic getting caught, having a look at that as well. Durban, a breakdown before you get to Gateway in the roadwork, so some extra pressure if you're airport bound this morning. The Kwamashu Highway is pretty heavily backed from Malandela Road down through Duffs Road towards the N2. And Cape Town, very busy on the highways. The N2 coming into town has a breakdown before the airport, so really under pressure from Khayelitsha. After that, it stays busy all the way through to Mowbray Main. M5's already under pressure from Southfield and Parkwood all the way up towards Zabakle. Causeway Road and the N1. No flooding to deal with, but a lot of traffic. It's heavy from Plattercliff Hill right through to the Coburg Interchange. We're just getting reports through from the Eastern Cape area of a cash in transit heist at McLeantown, just north of East London. It's likely to disrupt traffic flow on the N6 for some time this morning. We'll keep you up to date with that one. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Okay, so what do we have here? A new dub telenovela on S3? The last one was absolutely amazing, so let's see what this one's about. Paloma, a seamstress and single mother, receives the wrong test results and finds out that she only has 6 months to live. Interesting. She decides to live her best life and do things that she never had the courage to do. Understandable. Paloma unexpectedly finds love from a stranger she slept with. I see. She finds out that she received the wrong results and decides to meet the man who actually has 6 months to live? Wait, what? And right there, I know I'm hooked. Channel your inner drama with Bomb Successful, a life worth living. Weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
For years, Outsurance have been saying they will save you money on your car insurance or give you cash if they don't. Here are real clients who put it to the test.
Hi, my name is Deboho. I'm 36 from Benoni, and I pay 762 Rand for my Ford Figo 2018 model with Outsurance Comprehensive.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim-free for 3 years or more, and we can't beat your premium, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
As the slogan goes, you always get something out, either your savings or the 500 Rand.
Pay less every month or get cash. You just can't lose. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Some records do not like that they can be broken until they are broken. The world experienced the Mzansi vibes in Rio de Janeiro. Akani Simbine became the first South African to qualify for the men's 100-meter final since 1932. While the sprinter wasn't able to obtain a medal, his performance created another historic moment for South African athletics. He ran a phenomenal race and finished 5th in a battle with the likes of Jamaica's Johan Blake and Canada's Andre de Grasse. Simbine proved he could run with the greats like Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin, and made South Africa proud by qualifying for the men's 100-meter final for the first time since Danny Hubert in 1932. Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
4 minutes to 7, so we're talking about some of the issues happening in Johannesburg. One of the big issues is the water issue. Randburg has been suffering without water on and off. There's been massive amounts of infrastructure repairs and replacements, so that's allowed water to be slowed down. East of Johannesburg suffering that at the moment. Let's find out more about what's happening with Dr. Ferial Adam, WaterCan Executive Manager. Doctor, good morning to you. Thank you very much. Who doesn't have water in Johannesburg today?
Good morning. I'm sure there are many areas. I know that in the area that I'm in, we often get shut down at night, and then the water comes back at about 6 in the morning.
Do we know why these issues are happening?
Well, there's a number of reasons. I mean, the bottom line is that our infrastructure is old and it needs to be replaced and repaired. And I think that the city of Joburg is saying that they don't have the money to do this. So that is the challenge, because if we don't, we can just collapse the whole system, and that is a concern. Some of the maintenance that's been happening has been at the Rand Water side, right? So Rand Water needed to do their maintenance as well. But it's at the Joburg water level where I think we're having the challenge, and the pipes and the reservoirs are, you need to, like in our particular one, we fed from the Hurst Hill Reservoir, which doesn't get full because there's supposedly a leak in there, so they've got to pump it to a certain amount. In other cases, the pumping's not working properly. So it's just one after the other. It's not one issue, but it's definitely mostly focused around infrastructure.
Yeah, take a drive around Joburg. There will be water coming out of the roads somewhere.
Correct. This is actually the concern, because fixing the leak here, then down the road, if they don't do it properly, then you could get that when they open up the water, the pressure will then cause another burst pipe somewhere down the line. The line.
Right. Okay. All right. So So it bursts over here. They fix that. Suddenly there's more pressure lower down, and then that bursts, and it just carries on going. Instead of replacing the whole pipe, which will cost all of the money, Joburg does have 2.5 billion rand loan now. Is that spell good news? We're going to get new pipes.
No, but now listen. In terms of that loan, right? They talk about that they will spend it on capex, which is capital expenditure, and just bear in mind that last year they signed $100 million loan from the IFC, which is a subsidiary of the World Bank. And now they're signing the 2.5 billion rand loan. What exactly are they spending this on? And I mean, I think also, just to give you a picture of the amount of infrastructure that needs to be fixed, minus the reservoirs, minus the pump stations, there are 12,000 kilometers of water pipes and about 11,000 kilometers of sewage pipe sanitation. And Joburg has allocated, I think they were planning to fix something like 77 kilometers. They need to fix at least 380 or so a year. So that's the state we're in. I mean, I'm laughing.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to cry.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so for somebody who's living in Johannesburg without water on and off for a week, what do you tell them? It's like, well, just suck it up. This is the way it's going to be?
No. I think we must not stop. The thing is, we can suck it up and then this is how it's going to be, but then it will take longer to get fixed. What we need people to make sure that they keep logging. They keep reporting, because it gives the stats that we can then use to say, listen, in this area, this is a weak area. Focus on that area. So keep logging the leaks. Keep logging the no water. So that we can also, we can, if we need to, we can submit prior requests. But at this point, we're getting the information to know which are our weak areas. And yes, Joburg East is one of the problem areas. And then, of course, you've got in the south, right, where lots of areas are also being affected. But I think we also need to be, keep track of what's going on as people. So don't give up. We have to push. And it's only through our voices that we are going to be able to make sure that things get changed. So from Watercan side, we are asking for government to ring fence money for water infrastructure. Because what happens right now is Joburg Water collects about 12 billion rands in revenue. That all goes to City of Joburg. And of course, I understand it, because you've got to, the cities make money from electricity and water to pay for other things, clinics, etc.
We unfortunately we're out of time, Dr. Ferriel Adams. So I think your message is well put out. Keep reporting the incidents so that we can keep a record of where they are. Dr. Ferriel Adams, thank you very much. Watercan Executive Mayor takes us to 1 minute past 7 o'clock.
In our top stories, arrested Libyan nationals set to appear in court, and former ANC President Jacob Zuma expelled from the party. Good morning. The 95 Libyan nationals arrested at a camp resembling a military training base in Masoi near White River in Mpumalanga are expected to appear in court today. The Libyans were arrested at the camp originally designated for security training following a raid by officials from the police and Home Affairs conducted last Friday. The men are facing charges of contravention of the Immigration Act. Home Affairs says it has since cancelled their visas, which they acquired through misrepresentation in Tunisia. Some South Africans have commended authorities for the arrests, but others say they have safety concerns.
What they came here for, I don't know.
Okay, I'm crying about the government. Because the government, the border is open. So see if they got
I'm still amazed that I heard this from you guys. And this does not sit well with us as black people.
Former President Jacob Zuma has 20 days in which to appeal his expulsion from the ANC. Zuma's expulsion has been revealed in leaked draft documents which are in possession of the SABC. The documents record that the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee has found Zuma guilty of prejudicing the integrity of the party after acting in collaboration with the Umkhonto weSizwe party. The judgment follows a virtual disciplinary hearing on Tuesday last week. Busi Chimombe reports.
Despite his communicating through his representative, party veteran Tony Yengeni, that he wanted it to be held physically as he wanted to look his accusers in the eye, Party Secretary General Fikile Mbalula was at the helm of leading the charge against Zuma, presenting evidence that the former president had defined himself outside the party and that his utterances were designed to dislodge the ANC and mobilize society to vote against the party. Mbalula concluded that Zuma is incapable of being rehabilitated and must be expelled.
Zuma joined the ANC as a teenager in the late 1950s. His MK party won 14% of the vote in the elections in May. This helped to prevent the ANC from winning a majority in parliament for the first time since the end of apartheid 3 decades ago. 5 people have been killed in a shooting incident in Freedom Park, Phase 1 in Rustenburg in the northwest. The incident happened on Saturday night. The bodies of 4 men and a woman were found in the street. The provincial police spokesperson, Sabata Mukhobane, says the suspects fled the scene in a Toyota Quantum.
The Provincial Commissioner of Northwest, Lieutenant General Silokwena, instructed detectives to leave no stone unturned to ensure the arrest of suspects. According to information available at this stage, 4 of the victims were declared dead at the scene, while the 5th one died at Job Shimankane Tabane Hospital. The motive of the incident is unknown and investigations are underway.
And finally, the chairperson of the Rhema Family Churches, Pastor Bert Pretorius, says while artistic freedom is important, it should not be used to insult or demean people's deeply held beliefs. This after some faith groups express outrage over a segment of the Olympics opening ceremony in Paris on Friday, calling it a portrayal of the Last Supper. The parody featured a group of drag queens and dancers arranged around a long table, with some calling the depiction a mockery of Christianity. Pretorius says all religions should be respected.
If it was a central element of the Islamic faith, any other religion, there would be a significant outcry. So the disparity highlights the double standard of how different religions are treated. And it's important that we have equal respect, equal consideration. And, in this parody, we saw that there is a significant attack on Christianity.
Recapping the top story, the 95 Libyan nationals arrested at a camp resembling a military training base in Masoe near White River in Mpumalanga are expected to appear in court today. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy delays on the M1 in Joburg. A breakdown near the William Mandela off-ramp to 4 ways. Traffic is parked all the way back through to 14th Avenue, and it looks very heavy. Also some big queues getting off Malabongwe Drive into that N1 North. N12 and R24 routes coming into Galuli's interchange from Ekurhuleni, both heavy. Crash on the M1 North in Pretoria just before Garsfontein. That's a really big delay. Traffic parking all the way back to the R21. Cash and Transit heist north of East London is blocking the N6 route between Kai Road and McLean Town. Probably a good idea to hold back any travel through that area until lunchtime, I would think, this afternoon. Also, Durban's N2 North has a breakdown before Gateway. If you're on your way to the airport, that's an additional delay. And Cape Town pretty heavily backed up traffic on the N2 this morning. Queues through Khayelitsha. Looks like an issue as you come off the N2 onto the R300 North, and the M5 is heavy from Southfield Parkwood all the way through to Kuburg interchange. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headlines. Here's your Monday Olympic update. A memorable weekend for Team South Africa. We bagged a bronze medal thanks to the Blitz box. That's in the medal hunt that continues later tonight. And in rugby, the Currie Cup wrap. The Bulls, they power on. The Sharks upset the Lions. The details at around 7:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with #SAfm Breakfast.
I like that hashtag. #SAfm Breakfast. You can find us on all the socials. I think we're streaming somewhere. Where are we streaming? YouTube, streaming to the socials as well. And you can find us at SAfm Radio as well. Share your comments. Plenty to talk about already. You can give us a call, 086 000 2032. We'll take calls throughout the show. You can also send us voice notes and texts on 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. Thanks for the message. Who's at C in KwaZulu-Natal? And I got another message as well. Where is it? Kat in Pietermaritzburg sends me messages all the time. Thank you, Kat. Coming up in this hour, we have to safeguard whistleblowers. In the past 72 hours, police in KwaZulu-Natal have been involved in multiple shooting incidents. 9 alleged suspects have been killed, believed to be involved in serious crimes. Also, the big story over the weekend. 90 illegal immigrants from Libya were arrested at an army training facility. We will talk to somebody who trains these type of people. Senior training coordinator at the Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute of Security Studies. We'll talk to somebody who would do this kind of training so they can explain exactly what these Libyans were doing in South Africa and what sort of training they were going through. And then also one of the big news was the EFF celebrating its 11th birthday this weekend. EFF leader Julius Malema saying that more heads will roll where the EFF lost votes. We will find out from the EFF what they're planning on doing. So all of that's coming up in the next half hour.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. FlySafair's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za. Tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 return flights and exposure across our social and digital channels. It's our way of celebrating homegrown talent that fuels our nation. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
It's going to be a hot women's hockey battle between South Africa and Great Britain in Pool B. Mzansi Africa's plans are to fight hard from the first whistle to the end. But their opponents, GBR, believe they will deliver a touch of great class. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa tackles Great Britain on Wednesday, 31 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. # the global battle of great athletes. For the love of the game.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
11 minutes past 7 with SAfm. I'm John Gericke. Welcome to the show. What is going on in KwaZulu-Natal? Police are on the hunt for a gang of shooters after 6 people gunned down in eZakheni near Ladysmith. 4 people wounded in a drive-by shooting. It's ongoing issues of violence in KwaZulu-Natal, followed by violence from the police as well. Mary de Haas is a violence monitor in KwaZulu-Natal, honorary research fellow at the University of KZN's School of Law, a member of the Navi Pillay Research Group on Justice and Human Rights. Mary, thank you very much. What's happening in KwaZulu-Natal?
Good morning, John and listeners. Look, this is an old story. There's nothing new about it. I need to say very clearly, though, I've been I've been researching and monitoring policing for over 30 years, together with the violence, and I stand for good policing. And I want to say this loudly and clearly, because I'm also going to point out there's a lot of rogue police who just shoot and kill people dead. And I know that from the forensic evidence I've seen. I mean, some of the more recent shootings, for example, I know that one man who's been involved in more than one of those incidents, in one case, the evidence showed that the suspects could not have been firing at the police. So I want to point that out very clearly. That's the first thing. The other thing is that, and I know of cases in which suspects are killed, they were in cash and transit because they are witnesses, or they can give information, like, for example, the information that it was members of crime intelligence who supplied the money for the guns that killed Sindisa Makakla. Okay, so people get taken out for all sorts of reasons by members of the police, sometimes because another thing is that the police in South Africa some of them have been dealing in drugs since the apartheid days. So, and people still tell me in, for example, townships, well, my neighbour had a visit from the police, they're giving kickbacks to the police because they're dealing in drugs. So it's very easy to kill people that might blow the whistle on corrupt policing, which is not to say that sometimes the police have to shoot back. But the other thing is this province is awash with weapons. And I've been shouting about it for years. I mean, we had 6 truckloads of weapons from Vlakplaas just before the elections in 94. Most of those weapons have never, ever been accounted for. So we have this problem, but it starts with policing, and we have to do something about policing.
Police getting more violent because the crimes are becoming more violent?
Look, there's a huge amount of corruption in the police. I mean, we sent Patricia Mashale, the whistleblower that I wrote about at the weekend, one of the two. She has been dealing with corruption and reporting it for years. And she last year, for example, I think in 2020, she sent information to the Hawks about guns that were supposed to be destroyed being relicensed and given to criminals by the police. Okay. And then last year, when she was dismissed because she was in the unit, the priority crimes unit, when she was dismissed, her job was taken by somebody who didn't have a clue about how to license firearms. And the firearms were getting the applications were coming in. People were getting licenses even if they were criminals. We reported it to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee at the time, but it seems that nothing was ever done about it. So, I mean, I've been shouting about this for I don't know how long. And as I said, this affects good police because they too come under fire from criminals who, if the criminals are working with their corrupt people. We also sent information to IPID and Parliament, and there's a problem with IPID. That's the priority now, is to have an inquiry into IPID, because they are not just not dealing with torture, killings by the police. They're actively defeating the ends of justice and risking the lives of good police. And all this is in a dossier I sent to Parliament. So there's a whole lot of stuff here about how the police are actually themselves turning a blind eye to the guns, because you must understand, if it comes to a stage at which police are under fire from criminals, what has happened that these, dealing with crime starts with prevention. The role of the police constitutionally is to prevent crime. Read the Constitution. That means they've got to identify the people who've got guns, act against them. But they're not doing that because crime intelligence is not working. It's dysfunctional. The money for paying informers has been siphoned off somewhere else. And as I said, we sent stuff to IPID and Parliament about people buying their way into the police, not passing the test. So there's corruption even at that level.
Mary, there's new leadership in Parliament, at least, on policing. Are you seeing a change, or has nothing changed in the last? I know it's a really short time, but will there be changes coming?
Well, I'm hoping it will, because there's a very good chair and there's another very good person, at least one good person on the committee. But look, there's also a need for a change the new minister is a big improvement on the last minister. Let me put it that way. He's got, as a politician in KZN, initially I thought, oh no, KZN, this is where the problem is. But as a politician, even the premier in KZN, he was kind of quietly efficient. I'm just hoping that and the pressure from what I'm really hoping for, though, and this is not just the police, it's the justice, because if there's a huge problem with the Justice Department and the NPA, because they're also supposed to be having some oversight over the police, and they're not doing that. They're not doing their jobs, and some of them are corrupt in defeating the ends of justice.
Mary.
So I'm hoping Parliament will be much, much better, because the last Parliament was not exercising oversight.
All right. Let me just ask one quick question, Mary, see if you can. I know we will get messages saying that Mary de Haas is a bleeding heart liberal. If a criminal shoots at the police, then the police have every right to shoot them and kill them.
Yes, I know they'll say that, but what I'm saying to you is there may be times that happens, but it should not be happening if the police did their jobs, identified the people with guns, and acted before they threatened ordinary people and police. Furthermore, I mean, you don't tell me that all those people that they've killed recently are necessarily guilty of anything. People forget we've got a constitution, and dead men tell no tales. So you are not going to be able to follow up. Where did these guys get the guns from? Who are they working for? Who are the syndicates? Because they're dead, quite apart from, saying that. And police should be trained to shoot, not to kill. You must remember
Mary,
this is why Marikana happened.
Mary, we're out of time. Mary de Haas, Violence Monitor in KwaZulu-Natal, Honorary Research Fellow at the University of KZN School of Law, a member of the Navi Pillay Research Group of Justice and Human Rights.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more, just to be the one who buys your car. Will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
From 1952 in Helsinki to 1996 in Atlanta, Penny Haynes makes history 44 years later. The sensational swimmer ended the long wait with victory in the women's 100-meter breaststroke.
Haynes tried to hold Beard off again. She did it in the 100. Can she do it in the 200?
Champions always want more, especially at the Olympic Games. Haynes was not content with just one gold. She scooped the second in the women's 200-meter breaststroke in a brand new Olympic record.
Haynes will win gold for the second time, an Olympic record time.
Magical moments of the Olympic Games. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. For the love of the game.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
21 minutes past 7, John Gericke in. Good morning to you. It's SAfm Breakfast. 90 illegal immigrants from Libya arrested at an army training facility out in Mpumalanga, 360 km northeast of Johannesburg. Let's talk to Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. Willem, good morning to you. Was this an army training facility?
Good morning to you. It's an ongoing investigation, so we do not have a lot of information, but what we have is the statement by the Minister of Police where he said to him it looked like one, but the investigation is still ongoing. So it is early days to say, with face value, it might look different. What also the minister said is that there's a very blurred line between security training facilities and military training facilities in South Africa. So we will have to wait for the investigation to be completed before we will be able to draw that conclusion.
All right, we could break it down, Willem Els. If, as a senior training coordinator, is this the way that you would train security guards?
Yeah, well, in the first place, it depends what you're accredited for. So we see that this company has been accredited at CIRA, that is the governing body of security training in South Africa, and then you have to submit your curriculums. So then they accredit you according to that training. So what we see on the website of this group is that they do normal security training. That is your guard at the gate with a baton and pushing a button. But they also do some close protection. They do some counter poaching. They do some farm guard training and so on. So they're accredited for various courses, and also then it is different type of environments that you use for those type of training. So that is why the police is very cautious when they say the investigation is ongoing. We can't say at this moment, but it will be determined when the investigation is completed.
And the Libyan nationals has raised the biggest ire here as well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, in the first place, they came in on visas for training, the security training. It will be determined whether the company that did the training actually blurred the line or crossed the line into different training. That will be then a question of contention. But also we must understand that, since Muammar Gaddafi died, Libya, it just descended into a failed state where your government of national unity that has been recognized by the United States, they only control about 15 to 20% of the country. The rest being controlled by different militia groups, where Haftar group is controlling most of the country up to the east, but also in the south. You have some tribal militias, but also you've got Al-Qaeda camps and you've got ISIS camps. So where are these people coming from? That will also determine the threat of level, but also how much we should be worried.
There's going to be a search now for other types of these camps. Do you think there are around, from what you know, there are these little secret camps happening around the country?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a secret. I know that there are various accredited camps in South Africa where they do training. So it is a matter of whether they need to be visited. They need to be vetted whether they are compliant with the CIRA regulations. So South Africa has got a very vibrant security fraternity. I mean, we've got roughly about 3 to 4 times more security guards in South Africa than police officers. Sure. So there's a huge demand for training. But also you have to govern and you have to make sure that they stay within the lines.
Willem Els is a senior training coordinator on terrorism and explosives at the Institute for Security Studies.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
25 minutes past 7. More heads will roll where the EFF lost votes, says their leader, Julius Malema. They celebrated their 11th birthday this weekend. Find out what that means with Commissar Mbali Dlamini, Economic Freedom Fighters Member of Parliament. Commissar, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you. How will they be removed from the EFF? Just kicked out? We seem to have lost Commissar Mbali Dlamini. The Julius Malema saying the party leaders who failed to secure votes in their provinces face axing. Delivered a stern message in the party's 11th birthday celebration at the AR Abbas Sports Ground in Kimberley in the Northern Cape. Commissar Mbali Dlamini joins us again, Member of Parliament for the EFF. Commissar, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you. How will this process be implemented?
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting us to your show. We had our 11th celebration this past weekend to affirm and solidify our position in the space of politics in South Africa and how we will contest all coming elections and how we are moving forward, gearing into our 11th year, looking forward to more years coming.
Okay, how will the heads rolling be implemented?
There will be an accountability process because the EFF forms itself through branches. And for a branch to be valid, you need 100 members. And if you have confirmed that a branch is valid, there needs to be an explanation as to what were the votes in that particular branch. And then there's an accountability process after that, where the War Council of the EFF, which is a body that meets every week to set guidelines as to how do we then weigh in reports and test whether they're true or not. And while we're having the meetings towards elections, if comrades were experiencing challenges, why were they not upfront about it? Because we raise an expectation according to the reports we get from branches. So it's an accountability process, and then if people need to be axed and excused from positions because of that, that's what will happen.
Okay, because EFF getting only 2.56% of the vote in KwaZulu-Natal, but Julius Malema saying that they put up a fight there, and he called out the Northwest and Limpopo particularly for not putting up a fight. That's what you're saying. Even though KwaZulu-Natal suffered a lot, at least they raised the points.
Sure. So in KwaZulu-Natal, it was political dynamics that the leadership of KwaZulu-Natal campaigned very well, and it was tested during the campaign towards the elections. However, in Bujanala and Limpopo, the EFF had a very strong base, and it's up to the leadership that is elected through its regions and provinces to ensure that we maintain the constituency base that we have there through programs and activism. And if the leadership is ineffective, we're not going to be complicit like the ANC and keep people, whereas we know that they don't produce any results. And that's what makes the dynamics of KwaZulu-Natal unnecessarily the same in the other provinces that you have mentioned.
They were national elections, so how important would these representatives feel maybe a little disgruntled that these were national decisions that were made by the big executive council at the top of the leadership?
Sure. So elections, as you would know, that we vote per voting district. As much as they were in national elections, they are very ground-based, and we measure our base through the voting districts and municipalities. And what is our base in municipalities? So that's why we're saying that the organization holistically then becomes accountable for it. And it's not only limited to regional leaders and provincial leaders, also national leaders who were deployed there, who were then supposed to outweigh and measure and give a sense of what is really happening. Because, like I had explained before, there's a reporting process that happens during the course of elections. And when we are having those reporting processes, the expectation is that we get a sense from those reports from the leadership that is deployed there as to what is happening, not to be ambushed by results like we were in the Northwest and Limpopo.
Commissar Mbali Dlamini, thank you very much. Economic Freedom Fighters Member of Parliament. Also ongoing, don't forget the EFF are going to be holding their elective conference in December. Julius Malema is saying he's laid down the law there. He would only certain people will be allowed to attend. If you fail to get 10% in your ward, you will not be allowed to participate in the gathering. They're not rewarding laziness, says Julius Malema. It's 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the extradition application for the two siblings accused of involvement in the murder of South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane is expected to resume today in the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini. The 95 Libyan nationals arrested at a camp resembling a military training base in Masoi near White River, Mpumalanga, are expected to appear in court today. The Libyans were arrested at the camp originally designated for security training following a raid officials from the police and Home Affairs conducted last Friday. And the Airports Company of South Africa says some flights are able to depart from the Cape Town International Airport after a power outage at the weekend saw the grounding of aircraft. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAfm. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Important note if you're driving in or out of East London using the N6 route. This is north of East London. The cash in transit heist incident this morning. We understand it's between Kai Road and McLean Town, so it's north of East London. But motorists and truckers arriving into that area just being turned around and nothing getting through. It'll probably be for the next 6 or 7 hours. And normally big investigations, forensic teams have to arrive and investigate that scene as well. They'll probably have to travel some distance to get there. So just factor that the N6 will be closed, will be heavily restricted to some time. Any plans really you should aim to travel a little bit later this afternoon or face a pretty lengthy sort of detour through that area. Joburg side, the N1 North still very heavy this morning from Soweto up to Four Ways. A broken down vehicle before Winnie Mandela. The Four Ways off-ramp traffic all the way back through to 14th Avenue territory. R21 on your way towards the airport. 2 roadwork delays this morning. One at Clayville, another as you come down towards the Atlas Road exit through the Benoni off-ramp, so that's quite heavy. N14 up into Pretoria's Eupheus Road, quite a backlog to work through there as well. Durban's N2 North still with that breakdown before Gateway in the roadwork, so you're effectively queuing twice this morning through the M7 up towards Westwood Mall. That's your first backlog, and then Queen Nundy Drive through to the Gateway exit very slow. Southern Freeway to Durban, heavy pressures, unusual delays there. Jacobs Clarewood area delays as you come up towards the M7 off-ramp, and Cape Town just a very busy back to work Monday. The N1 inbound Plattekloof Hill through to the city centre. M5 is Grassy Park all the way through to the Barclay Road exit in Maitland, and a lot of traffic on the N7 again this morning from Goodwood's for Trekker Road, all jammed towards Bosmansdam Road for Summer Greens and Montague Gardens exits. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. Olympic Games and some more games.
Yeah,
Busy.
It's a roller coaster of excitement. Woo!
What's happening?
Yeah, we're going to be diving into the pool tonight. Peter Coetzee, Tatiana Smith, they've got their respective finals. Coetzee broke his own African record in the 100-meter backstroke semi-finals, clocking an impressive 52.63 seconds. Here's Peter Coetzee.
Tomorrow it's just a race. I wanted to get into the final because if you're in the final, you got a chance. So it's just going to be a dogfight.
Moving to Tatiana Smith, on the other hand, fastest in the 100-meter breaststroke semi-finals with a season best of 1 minute 5 seconds. And both Peter Coetzee and Tatiana Smith, strong podium contenders. Cycling, Alan Hatherley is set to compete in the men's cross-country race this afternoon. Ranked second in the world is the South African and is amongst the favourites to clinch a medal. Despite her strong start, cyclist Candice Lill faced tough competition in the women's cross-country mountain bike. She finished 20th after her tyre had burst. And rowing, John Smith and Christopher Baxter, they advanced to the semi-finals, finishing second in their first round heat, showing excellent form. The semi-final race for the rowers is tomorrow at 2:10. On the hockey field, SA men's team put up a commendable performance, drawing 2-2 against Great Britain in their second pool match. South Africa's top goal scorer, Brad Sherwood.
Yeah, we always knew that it was going to be a competitive game. To take it that far and just miss out is a bit of a disappointing one. But happy to get some points moving forward in the tournament. Yeah.
And then obviously, just your thoughts on being an Olympic goal scorer.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. Obviously, the results is a bit of a dampener, but I couldn't be happier.
Now, the women's hockey team fought hard in their opening game, but unfortunately lost 2-1 to Australia. And there was also a setback for artistic gymnast Caitlin Rooskrantz. She had to withdraw from the all-round competition due to an injury, currently undergoing an MRI scan to determine if she can compete in the individual apparatus events later this week. The women's rugby team faced a challenging day, losing 5-34 to Australia and 0-38 to Ireland. Rugby action closer to home, the Currie Cup, where the Bulls staged a comeback to beat Western Province 50-34, securing their fourth consecutive win and topping the log. Meanwhile, the Lions, they suffered their first defeat, losing 35-22 to the Sharks at Ellis Park. The Sharks dominated from the start, leading 23 at half-time. In the other matches, the Cheetahs edged out the Griffins 47-45, and the Pumas, they thrashed Griquas 66-26, and a couple of more exciting fixtures ahead this weekend with the Cheetahs. They'll be facing the Bulls on Friday. And finally, Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nazruddin Nabi called for calm after his team were hammered 4-0 by Tanzanian champions Young Africans in a pre-season Toyota Cup friendly.
Zai, thank you very much. Sorry, I thought you were going to play a soundbite there. Zai Carmen, more sport coming up in an hour's time. Go and watch some Olympics. What time do things start? Like nowish already? I think so.
Yep, nowish already. It's happening.
Ridiculous. These guys are so busy. And it's just non-stop for 2 weeks. Somebody has to watch the sports, Zai.
Let's hear a hoop hoop. Yeah.
23 minutes to 8 o'clock.
The Business Update on SAfm.
Tauleng Lechela joins us again. Tauleng, good morning to you. Ford having some struggles.
That's right, John. Now, the car maker took a beating in the second quarter, reporting lower profits. This comes as it deals with higher costs and stiff competition in the electric vehicle market. During the period, warranty expenses increased by $800 million. This was mainly due to problems with vehicles from 2016 and 2021, which needed more repairs than expected. Analysts at Piper Sandler said the unexpected surge in warranty costs was the reason Ford's stock price dropped. Now, another issue weighing on Ford is its EV unit. Legacy automakers have scaled down their EV ambitions amid easing demand, a shift to hybrids, and tough competition from the likes of Tesla and Chinese EV makers in global markets. Now, investors don't seem to have liked the numbers. Analysts are expecting Ford to lose an additional $7.2 billion in market cap this year.
And good news for the citrus farmers locally?
That's right. Now, the South African citrus industry has been at loggerheads with the European Union for quite some time now. According to South African officials, the EU has strict rules that limit local citrus exports, citing concerns about citrus black spot and false codling moth. Now, South Africa thinks these rules are unfair and not based on science. After 20 years of trying to resolve the issue amicably, South Africa has asked the World Trade Organization to step in. The EU initially rejected South Africa's request, but the WTO will now automatically approve the request and establish panels to investigate the issue. The European market is an important destination for South Africa's citrus exports, accounting for over a third of total exports. But a dispute with the EU over these regulations is stopping the industry's growth. We have seen an increase in citrus exports, but the industry is not meeting its long-term growth targets. And according to the Citrus Growers Association, the industry will need to resolve this dispute and address other challenges like port logistics to meet those growth targets. Currently, South African citrus growers spend about 3.7 billion rand annually to comply with those EU regulations.
And what's happening in the markets in Tauleng?
So markets kicking off the week on a positive note. It's green screens in Asia, with the Japanese Nikkei recording big gains up 2.4% and China's Shanghai index up 0.13%. Traders in Asia are eyeing big central bank moves. Policymakers in Japan and the US will be announcing monetary policy decisions later this week. Taking a look at Wall Street, US futures, those stocks are in the green. Besides the Fed, focus will also be on another round of tech earnings. We will be getting numbers out from Microsoft and Apple. Back at home, local markets closing off last week higher, with the All Share up 0.5%. Not much action is playing out in the currency scene, with the rand slightly stronger, trading at a steady 18.28 to the dollar.
Tauleng Lechela, thank you very much. More business coming up in an hour's time.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Sianda in Kariga. Hello, Sianda.
Morning, John. I hope you're doing well.
Always. Go ahead. You want to talk about Zuma's expulsion?
John, I had read a couple of months ago an article about Jacob Zuma leaking documents. I think it was with regards to the rogue unit things. I think what I'm getting at is he used a journalist to leak a story to create something out of nothing. That's documented. Now, this leaking of a expulsion of Jacob Zuma, I wouldn't be surprised if it is doing, by the way, just to make the ANC look bad because it's something that he is prone into doing. That's the first part.
Why would he do that? Just to make the ANC look bad?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. The second part, John, what business do I have with you running your household and doing things the way you want to do in your household? I don't have any local standing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why the MK party would even issue press statement and hold media briefings about Jacob Zuma and the ANC when they do not have the local standing. They should only be focusing on the matters that regards the MK party and nothing to do with the ANC. Why are they so hell-bent in talking about the internal battles of ANC when they have no business with the ANC?
Maybe they're taking
That's the question that I have.
Maybe they're taking advantage of a little bit, Sianda. Just sort of rubbing salt in the wounds. Let's go to Moses in Bramley. How's it, Moses? You want to talk about Mary Dahasa's views?
Yeah, man. Before that one, John, we had Masrol. This should be actually directed to Julius Malema himself. He's the one who actually led the decline of the votes for EFF. Because when he's insulting, I was one of the voters of EFF, when he insulted our intelligence, telling us we must go and punish with our votes foreigner, with his immigration policy.
Yeah, well, you heard what the Commissar Mbali Dlamini had to say about that. To say that she understands that, and I think they understand that. But if there weren't reports from those smaller communities, then they couldn't have done anything about it, and that's what they have issues with.
Yeah, but the head if it's about to roll, it should be directed to Julius himself. Okay,
right.
I just want
Quickly,
to talk
Mary,
about your interview.
Yeah.
The lady. It's so scary when you listen to people when they are saying such things. I mean, this government of the ANC, the African National Criminals, they actually see to it that they destroy all the institutions, the intelligence. We don't have intelligence. They give it to Richard Mdoli to run it down. Today we don't even know 95 Libyans who are arrested in Mpumalanga. It was through the citizenry that they actually find about that thing. It was not because of intelligence. But when these guys are interviewed, they come on the radio and spin things. There are a lot of people who are trained in this country. That is why we are actually blacklisted. We are what we call it, this thing of blue listed for funding the terrorists. We've got a lot of Al-Qaeda and ISIS in this country. See what is happening in Mozambique at Cabo Delgado, which means these people are just trained within the neighborhood in this country. We are messed in this country. I wonder we'll ever recover as a country.
Moses in Bramley saying, can we recover? Madupi in Bloemfontein, you want to talk about whistleblowing?
Hey, good morning, John.
Morning.
John, good morning to listeners also. John, I just want to talk about this whistleblowing. You remember when you were, it just brought my mind to when one was young. You would tell who did what, and then you'd be punished by others as a snitch, even at school or whatever.
Yeah.
And then whistleblowers are never protected. And then it comes to the point whereby you go to the police and report that if you go to that house or you go to that corner in town, people are selling drugs there. Remember, drugs is number one killer of future. Number one killer of future because it kills our children. The police will never go there. And during apartheid, you'd be charged for what you call stand and cake. If you see the police do something wrong, you'll be charged. If you see somebody doing wrong, you'll be charged. Now, this thing. Remember, some weeks ago we learned about this old lady who was assaulted by a grandson. If the video clip wasn't taken of that incident, the world wouldn't have known, or South Africa wouldn't have known about the torture that old woman was going through with this boy.
All right, Madupi. I hear what you're saying, Madupi. Whistleblowers are struggling. So, Madupi, please carry on listening. 8:45, we are scheduled to talk about the public interest who are saying that the Department of Justice must explore incentivizing whistleblowers. It's happening in the United States. They're incentivizing whistleblowers, helping them through the difficult task if they have to move, if they lose their job for whatever reason, and their safety and security as well. They're trying to implement that in South Africa, or at least asking to. We're going to talk to Tebogo Kas, president of SASMME Forum, Politics and Business. We're going to find out if that makes sense to incentivize whistleblowers to get more of this information, this public information, to the police.
You are listening to John Gerika on SAfm.
It's, 14 minutes or so till 8 o'clock. What is happening in our schools? Is there rising racism in the schools? Xolani Fakuda is the Secretariat Officer, spokesperson for the South African Democratic Teachers Union, or SATU. Xolani, thank you very much. Good morning. Are there increasing numbers of racism in the schools, or are we just seeing more of it now?
Thank you very much, John. Firstly, let me greet you and let me greet the listeners of SAFM as well. One could say what we see, the incidents that we see being reported right now, that we see going viral on social media, etc., are probably just the tip of the iceberg. Racism is a complicated issue that sits very deep within communities that is then reflected within our schools. So the short answer to your question is that it's not necessarily about seeing more cases of racism than and now as if they are new. This is what has been happening. This is a legacy of apartheid. It is a legacy of a past unjust system. And therefore, our learners still do not appreciate the common nationhood that we need to build upon so that we can move forward as a country.
These are all young children, Xolani. They're all young teenagers. They've grown up together. They've been born post-apartheid. Where are these ideas coming from?
Well, this is where also learner or the parental involvement becomes important. With the best education systems in the world, John, have got one thing in common, a common characteristic, and that is the issue of parental involvement. But then you would also recall that some few years ago, SAT was in the forefront of a campaign calling on relevant South African history to be made a compulsory subject up to a particular number of grades. And that is because we knew and we understood that if we are going to build South Africans, if our system is going to yield responsible South Africans who understand where we are coming from as a country, where we are as a country, and where we need to go to as a country, that is then when we can start seeing that we are making a fundamental progress. So parental involvement is also an issue, but then there's also multiple stakeholders. The same applies to even mass media platforms such as yourselves, John. What kind of messaging are we sending there? Are we institutionalizing racism? Because we know that is the kind of a history that we come from in the context of the schooling system. So what we are saying, therefore, John, is that let us all hold hands together. Let us collaborate. Let's have all the multiple stakeholders taking a very active part in this. What we want to see ultimately is responsible South Africans who will be able to take the country forward. And the education system plays a very important role in that context.
Your members, the actual teachers on the ground, can they take responsibility for this, for not stamping down when they see little, what are now called microaggressions?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter, John, is that education, in every sense of the word, can never be relegated only to the relationship between the teacher and the learner, which means the interactions between the teacher and the learner in the classroom. It goes way beyond that. What we see happening in schools is literally a reflection of what society sees. When you see a WhatsApp group of girls from a school in Pretoria talking very blatantly about racism, where do they get those ideas? It's not necessarily from the teachers. it is also about where the community in which they live in. If that is normalized within the communities, then we will see it reflecting in the schools. If that is normalized within the family unit, if those are the kind of discussions that they hear over the braais, etc., then it means that is the kind of a reflection that we'll also have in the schooling context. And we are saying, therefore, it is not just about the teacher and the learner, it is also about the parental involvement and the role of the community, society in its entirety.
Well, Fokude is the Secretariat Officer and spokesperson for the South African Democratic Teachers Union.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Let's kick it off in Joburg with an update on this N1 North through to four ways this morning. If you're driving in from the Soweto Rudaport area, broken down vehicles been with us all morning before the Willie Mandela exit, and the traffic is extremely heavily backed up all the way to 14th Avenue. You might want to just elect to hop onto some alternative routes. Bayers Nordia locally, a crash at Judith Road. So if you're coming down towards Mill Park from Cresta, there's some delayed traffic around that particular scene as well. And if you're driving up into Pretoria, the N14, the Ben Schoeman Highway, still pretty slow up towards Eupheus Road coming past the monument down in towards the N14. It's quite heavy as well if you're arriving in from the Pretoria West area. Durban, the N2 North, the breakdown at Gateway is being cleared, but it's been replaced by a crash on the southbound carriageway before Kumashu. So southbound now from Gateway, heading down towards the M25 is all backed up. The M4 Southern Freeway still queuing quite heavily up through Jacobs and the Clarewood area. Cape Town, a crash scene on Brackenfell Boulevard, just south of Bottle Ray Road. It might be Saxtown Road at that point, but if you're moving between Kales River and Brackenfell, using Brackenfell Boulevard, there are some delays there. N7 North out of Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road remains heavy. Marine Drive this morning, quite badly backed up from Sunningdale all the way down to the lights at Sunset Beach. And the M3's got a lot of traffic from Constantia right through Newlands and up past UCT all the way into Hospital Bend. And a reminder to avoid travel on the N6 in and out of East London probably until lunchtime or shortly thereafter. It's a cash and transit heist. It's between McLeantown and Kai Road. That section of the N6 is completely closed for some time, and it probably will be shut for some time. Complete closure both ways as police investigate that cash heist incident. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
You wouldn't think of him without thinking of gold. Wade van Niekerk won gold and broke Michael Johnson's 17-year-old world record.
He's pulling away. It's an unbelievable victory by a huge margin. A century of history at 43.03.
Van Niekerk's performance at the men's 400-meter final will undoubtedly be remembered forever. Although he was running blind in lane 8, considered the worst lane on the track, the 24-year-old rider gave it his all and broke a 17-year-old record and won gold at the same time. South Africa left Rio with 10 medals and numerous first times. The country's athletes wrote their stories into the Olympic history books and will forever be admired for their achievements. Magical moments of the Olympics, brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on #SAfm Breakfast.
5 minutes to 8. I'm John Kerricker. Good morning to you. Now, the ANC has vowed firm action. The leader of in KwaZulu-Natal is defying the party. This is happening in the Umzumbe local municipality. And to find out a little bit more, the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Secretary of the ANC joins us now. Becky Mtolo, good morning to you. What is going on? And Mklengi Lutuli not listening to what you're telling him to do?
Good morning, John. Good morning to you, viewers. Yes, Mklengi Lutuli, the Deputy Mayor of Umzumbe, is also the member of the Regional Committee for the Management Region, seemingly not adhering directive
that phone line's really bad to you, Becky Mtolo. Let's hope that improves. You can just spin around a little bit, maybe. So the incidents happen now, a whole bunch of by-elections that happened in that municipality, and the IFP have now joined in a power-sharing agreement. They were supposed to get the deputy mayor position. So what's the process now? Right, we seem to have lost Becky Mtolo from the Zumbe local municipality. By-elections were held. IFP and the ANC have 17 seats each. 7 ANC councillors and 4 defectives. There was suspension of 7 ANC councillors, 4 defections to the MK Party. MK Party holds the other 1 seat. And now there was supposed to be this power-sharing agreement between the IFP and the ANC. IFP are supposed to get the deputy mayor position, but now Mhlengeni Lutuli refuses to resign from the post. Becky Mtolo, sorry, you were telling us, what is the process now with Mhlengeni Lutuli refusing to move his position?
The process, because remember,
Right, no, we're not having any luck with those with that phone line. We're going to try one more time. Let's give it another call. See if it's able to get through. Let's add a little bit more. While we're waiting for that, don't forget, there was, and I've been corrected, HIV and AIDS, 2 different things. There was the wrap of the International AIDS Conference, and South Africa appears to be gaining ground in HIV treatment. So we'll talk to Professor Linda Gale-Becker about that, CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation, and also get an update on what's happening with adolescent mental health and social media. How is it affecting our children? We're going to try one more time. Can we take a voice note maybe while we're waiting for that to happen? No, we can't take a voice note. So we'll get a caller on the line. It's 2 minutes or so till 8 o'clock.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
All right, we're struggling to get hold of that conversation, so let's take a call. We go to Bonakele in Cape Town. Hi.
Hey, my brother. Welcome to this new show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's up? Are you being blown away in Cape Town, are you?
Come again?
Are you being blown away in Cape Town? It's ice cold down there today.
Yeah, ice cold, of course. But this couple of days, at least it's much better. There's no more rain, but still getting cold. Yeah.
You want to talk about Zuma?
Nonetheless, listen. The last question I was asking you, what is his name? How can I forget my the gentleman was doing this show last week. What? Stephen Hawkins. Man, I'm being unfair now. How can I do this? Listen, the question that when I was saying goodbye to him, you understand, wishing him a good luck wherever he's going. The last question I was asking, and very, very, very worried to check as to when is the outcome of this disciplinary hearing. He said, no, Bonagele, it will be next Monday. You can wait next. And only to find out yesterday, the outcome came out. Yes, and I would like to share my excitement and happiness. At least finally, the old man has been expelled. So he will no longer going around and tell himself he's an ANC member now. And in fact, that's a question everybody was asking. How can you form a party and the AFP is going to call yourself you are a member of the other party? That was totally unfair. And in fact, I must really say, it is long overdue. It should have been fired long time ago. So, but the question I'm asking myself is whether he's going to appeal this or not.
Yeah, he's got time to appeal it. Let's see what happens. And if we know Jacob Zuma, there will be an appeal process.
And the other one, quickly, Malema is destroying that party of theirs. Slowly, but people doesn't notice it. They don't really notice it. You see, now these talk going around telling that all these branches that have not... they're going to be fired. And they already fired people who...
All right, Bonakele, we need to move on. Your point is well made. Thank you very much, Bonakele. Julius Malema is destroying the EFF. You with SAfm, it's just gone 8 o'clock.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, siblings in aka Tibbs murder case back in Eswatini court and arrested Libyan nationals set to appear in court. Good morning. The extradition application for the two siblings accused of involvement in the murder of South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane is expected to resume today in the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande were arrested earlier this year at a house they were renting in Mbabane. They had previously abandoned their application for access to the contents of the murder docket. The 95 Libyan nationals arrested at a camp resembling a military training base in Masoi near White River, Mpumalanga, are expected to appear in court today. The Libyans were arrested at the camp originally designated for security training following a raid from officials from the police and Home Affairs conducted last Friday. The men are facing charges of contravention of the Immigration Act. Home Affairs says it has since cancelled their visas, which they acquired through misrepresentation in Tunisia. Some South Africans have commended authorities for the arrests, but others say they have safety concerns.
What they came here for, I don't know.
Okay, I'm crying about the government, because the government, the border is open. So see safety that we have.
I'm still amazed that I heard this from you guys, and this does not sit well with us as black people.
A tuck shop owner has been arrested in Dinga village outside Malamulele, Limpopo. Police say the suspect is a foreign national who stabbed and killed a man and wounded his friend after an argument outside the tuck shop. The provincial police spokesperson, Malisela Lidwaba, says the suspect is in hospital under police guard after community members assaulted him.
According to information, community mobilized and traced the suspect, cornered him and brutally assaulted him until he was rescued by the police and was taken to hospital under police guard. Police opened murder and attempted murder case. The Provincial Commissioner of Police in Limpopo, Lieutenant General Timbi Hader, has condemned the incident. She has, however, hailed the suspect's arrest.
5 people have been killed in a shooting incident in Rustenburg in the northwest. The incident happened on Saturday night. The bodies of the 4 men and a woman were found in the street. The shooting is the second in the province at the weekend. Earlier, 8 people were killed and 12 others wounded at a tavern in Kanana near Orkney. The provincial police spokesperson Sabata Mukhabone has more on the latest incident.
The Provincial Commissioner of Northwest, Lieutenant General Silokwena, instructed detectives to leave no stone unturned to ensure the arrest of suspects. According to information available at this stage, 4 of the victims were declared dead at the scene, while the 5th one died at Job Shimankane Tabane Hospital. The motive of the incident is unknown and investigations are underway.
The airports company South Africa says partial services have been restored to Cape Town International Airport, allowing for the take-off and landing of aircraft. A power outage at the weekend saw the grounding of aircraft. This has left thousands of passengers stranded. Since yesterday, the power outage affected runway lights as well as rescue and navigation services. Flights could neither land nor depart. They had to be diverted to other airports. Airports company South Africa spokesperson Ernest Mulibana.
AXA confirms that runway lights and navigational aids were returned to service after 1 o'clock this morning, allowing for safe aircraft landings. The restoration of power supply have allowed for 11 aircraft to land. AXA technicians and specialists are continuing with permanent repairs and restoration of the network. However, we are waiting for a clear window of opportunity to execute the required work.
Recapping the top story, the extradition application for the 2 siblings accused of involvement in the murder of South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane is expected to resume today in the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Are you with the best insurance company in South Africa? Outsurance has consistently had the best ombudsman for short-term insurance results for the past 11 years, and they really mean it when they say you always get something out. They pay over 1.7 million rand in out bonuses every day, so why would you want to be with anyone else? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754, or visit outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. It's licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on Joburg's N1 North this morning. You might want to think about a reroute around this. It's a broken down vehicle before the Willie Mandela Drive exit of four ways, and traffic's solid all the way back through to 14th Avenue. There's some delays getting into the highway because of its heaviness off Bayers Nordia and especially off Malabongwe Drive. The lights at the Willie Mandela Bridge system still offline as well. The Mike 1's pretty heavy. It's worth a mention all the way from Gold Reef City right through to Grayston Drive in the Sandton area this morning. And motorists driving into Pretoria just noted a crash on the N14 at Euphias Road coming up from Century, and that's all fairly heavily backed up. Durban, a collision scene in the roadworks before Kwamashu. That's driving to Durban on the N2 South. That's a backlog beyond the Schlanger exit. The M4 from Jacobs into Clarewood, Southern Freeway into Durban stays really heavily backed up. And Cape Town, the N2 Somerset West can often be busy on a Monday with returning weekend volumes. This morning is complicated by no traffic lights on the N2 at Victoria Street Junction, so that's heavy. And just nearby Broadway Boulevard at the N2 bridge, there's no traffic lights there, so there's a bit of an extra delay also. And Marine Drive stays pretty solid coming out of Tableview. Big backlogs down to the first lights at Sunset Beach, and then you've got some lights down on Marine Drive at Neptune Street, causing a secondary delay through Pardon Island towards the N1 highway. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SAfm Sports headlines, it's more action in the Paris Olympics. SA athletes ready for skateboarding, rugby, cycling, badminton, hockey, swimming finals. Plus, we'll bring you an update from Formula One, where there was drama. George Russell disqualified, giving Lewis Hamilton the win in Belgium. All this and more at around 8:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
8 minutes past 8. We're just talking about George Russell. What is he? 1.5 kilos too light. It could have just been water because he looked exhausted. I don't know. We'll talk about it later on. Zaikan with more sport in about 20 minutes or so. Coming up in a moment, we're going to talk about the International AIDS Conference. Experts have highlighted South Africa appears to be gaining ground in HIV treatment. New infections still on the rise. And in our science and innovation segment, we're going to talk about social media's role on the adolescent mind and the adolescent mental health. How are they coping? And later on, urging the Department of Justice to explore incentivizing whistleblowing. It's something we spoke about earlier on as well. So that's all coming up in the next hour or so.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
A century is full of thrilling moments. You can break it down to 10 decades. It is a journey of all kinds of challenges, but winners don't focus on the storm. They look forward to a rainbow. By contrast, South Africa tied its best ever gold medal performance in 100 years. From 1912 in Stockholm to London in 2012. Once again, it was in the pool that Team SA did most of their triumphing, with Cameron van der Berg setting a world record in winning the men's 100-meter breaststroke. And who will ever forget Chad the Claw toppling Michael Phelps in the men's 200-meter butterfly?
It's going to be close. Does he touch? He doesn't. Leclos touched because Phelps got it wrong on the line. It's unbelievable.
Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
John Gericke with you. It's 11 minutes past 8 o'clock, the wrap of the International AIDS Conference. Experts have said that in South Africa we're gaining ground in HIV treatment, but new infections are still on the rise and are a cause for concern. Professor Linda Gale Becker is the CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation. Prof, thanks very much for joining us. Good morning to you. Just, why are infections still on the rise? There's big numbers, isn't it, still?
Yeah, it's about 250,000 for us in South Africa. So that's really distressing given that, across the world, there was 1.3 million. So we're making a huge contribution to the new infections. And this obviously is an area where we have to make a difference, because otherwise the number of people that we have to treat for the rest of their lives just continues to, grow. And that has real implications for how long this epidemic is going to, keep us all busy.
It's a double-edged sword. South Africa is doing so well on that treatment that you mentioned about that HIV/AIDS is almost like a forgotten thing. Well, I'll just take the antiretrovirals. I'll be okay.
That's right. It's kind of you're the victims of your own success in that regard. I think what we have to remember is that people age into, their sexual lives every year. We have, people are becoming adolescent. Those adolescents need to be told, they need to understand, they need to, get the right information. And of course, they need to be able to access primary prevention. And this is where we have to put all our energy now, whilst of course continuing to make sure that we keep going our treatment program, which after all is the biggest in the world.
It has to be the biggest. We're significant a number of global HIV cases. What happens in South Africa affects the world.
That's right. The biggest, one of our sad, legacies of not getting on with it in the early 90s has meant that we now have more people living with HIV in this country than any country in the world.
Professor Linda Gale Becker, how close are we to an HIV/AIDS cure?
So there was, again, huge excitement at the Munich conference this year. Yet another person who was cured or appears to have been cured from HIV. So we have 7 of these individuals now documented in the world. But we have got there because they needed radical treatment for a cancer. So in some cases it's been leukemia, in other cases myeloma, etc. And these individuals have undergone bone marrow transplant. Now when we do that, we can do some gene manipulation. And the amazing thing has been that, these 7 individuals, one of whom we've subsequently lost just to another, reason, but individuals now living without HIV, having been cured. Of course, this is not a cure for everyone. So what it does bring for us, though, is a deeper understanding of exactly what it would take. And so there is amazing innovation happening in this area, terrific new diagnostics. So we continue to look for both a vaccine and a cure, both of which are going to be really important for us to actually eliminate this virus entirely.
I want to go back to the education part of it. Are we still educating people about HIV and how it's caught, first of all, and how to prevent yourself from becoming HIV positive?
I think the problem is that 40 years into this epidemic, we have got a little tired, right? And our messages have got tired and fatigued. And I think we can learn a lot from other areas of education and innovation in the world, where you recognize that young people have short attention spans. There's a lot of distraction going on in the world, and I think we could definitely improve how we disseminate information, how we make sure that it's tailored to young people where they are, that it's in their pocket, right? It's not, posters and readable material is a thing of the past. We now need to be on their phones and in their pockets. And I think we can be doing a whole lot more there. And then, of course, primary prevention is huge. And I just don't think we're doing enough to really bring people up to speed with what they can do for themselves to protect themselves, not only against HIV, but STIs and generally, self-care towards sexual reproductive health.
There's a lovely Afrikaans word that I use a lot. It's called verkrampt. When it comes to this kind of education, parents don't necessarily want to teach their children or have somebody else teach their children about the dangers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's a perfect word. It describes it very well. We forget that we ourselves were adolescents and young people once. It's entirely normal and natural that young people start to discover their sexual beings. It's really up to us to make sure that they do that in a safe and healthy way. And we now have tools that people can use that allows them to do that kind of sexual discovery without endangering themselves from infection. And that's something really, I think it's our responsibility to transmit to people, but it's got to be done in a way that young people are going to understand, it's going to resonate with them, and they're going to internalize it and actually make use of it.
There's this UNAIDS program, 95, 95, 95. What is that and how close are we to it?
So this is an amazing sort of aspirational goal that UNAIDS put together in 2015, and then they sort of upgraded it from 90 to 95, 95, 95. What it means is that around the world, every country seeks to ensure that 95% of their population knows their HIV status, in other words, that they test. Of those who test positive, 95% should be on their treatment. And of those, 95% should be virally suppressed. That means taking their antivirals in such a way that the virus is no longer replicating in their bodies. We get two benefits from that. One, the individual becomes healthy and lives long. The second is individuals who are virally suppressed no longer are infectious. So we get a secondary prevention benefit from doing that. So this is the UNAIDS has asked that every country tries to reach this goal initially by 2020, but now this has been moved at least to 2025, and with the hope that we will be able to bring HIV under control as a public health threat by 2030. Now, South Africa is not doing too badly. We've done very well, in fact, on the first 90. We are a very well-tested country, although, of course, people should still be aware that testing is the entry point into making sure that they are safe, either if they're living with HIV to make sure they get on antiretrovirals, if they're not, to protect themselves. But the difficulty for us has been that second 90. So really making sure that people link to care, and then once they're in antiretroviral treatment care, that they stay in care. And what we find in South Africa is that people easily disengage from treatment. And so often people are needing to, be relinked to care. And so that our middle 90 is really the one we have to work on a lot harder. And that means our treatment systems have to be, friendly and affable and allow people to come back, and that they're not standing in long queues that really turn them off, making sure that they stay in treatment. So these are the areas where we have to continue to work.
Professor Linda Gale Becker, thank you very much, CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation.
Explore the family drama and legacy of one of the most powerful royal families in South Africa, the Mukwebos. This is Mubango, 30 Years of Democracy, Season 1 and Season 2. See how it all began, from when a king suddenly dies, leaving behind 2 wives, one from a customary marriage and the other from a civil union, coming full circle to the coronation of one of his sons. Mubango Season 1 and Season 2, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. on SABC 2. You belong.
Futa Free is more than just football. It's a celebration of passion, community, and the magic of Africa's beautiful game. Futa Free goes beyond the final score. Uncover the heart of the game with special profile segments, taking you on a captivating journey across the continent. Experience the fabric of African football. Futa Free every Saturday at 1:30 p.m. on SABC 1 and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Science of Life on SAfm.
21 minutes past 8, SAfm Breakfast. I'm John Gericke. It's a study about studies. There's uncertainty about social media's role in the adolescent mental health. Let's find out more about the study of studies. Dr. Douglas Parry is from the Department of Information Science at Stellenbosch University, co-author of the study of studies. Doc, thanks very much for joining us. So what you're saying is there are studies, but not enough studies from kids to find out how social media is affecting the adolescent mind.
Yes, what we're saying is, so we looked at about 143 studies conducted over the past 15 years, essentially all the research that has looked at anxiety, depression, and so on amongst adolescents across the world. And we found, firstly, that the research is very low quality, and secondly, that too little of the research focuses on those who have some kind of a clinical diagnosis, which then constrains our ability to actually understand what's going on here.
I'm going to use the wrong words, and I apologize to anybody that gets offended. I don't mean to offend. I just don't have the vocabulary for this. So they've looked at children that have already got some sort of mental health issues as opposed to quote-unquote normal kids to see how it affects them.
Yes, we looked at studies that compare between the two of these. So we found that of the 143 studies, less than 10% actually look at those who have some kind of a diagnosis. So there's very little focus on this particular type of individual.
What did we get from that then?
Well, we get very little. And with the research being very low quality, this is obviously a very important question that we need to answer. And unfortunately, it seems that high quality research isn't able to answer this question in the way that we would actually like at this point.
How many, I'm fascinated, 1 in 5 children and adolescents globally have a mental health condition, legitimately.
That is what the studies seem to show. Of course, there are global varieties across countries, but that's at a very high level. That's the stats.
And what we're trying to work out is why is that happening?
Yes, and many people think that social media might be contributing to this. But a lot of our research shows that we need to have more nuance here. We need to accept that mental health is much more complex than a single factor like social media causing a mental health crisis. It might be one of very many factors playing a role here, but we're arguing against quite simple arguments about a single factor.
Okay, so you can't just say, well, because everybody's on social media now there are mental issues. It could be food. It could be schooling.
Many different factors contribute to mental health, positively and negatively.
All right, so now that you've worked this out, what do we do?
I think we need to consider all these factors, someone's psychosocial adversity, poverty, their experiences of bullying, whatever else might be going on in their life, and see how those elements might interact with certain features on social media to try to get to the bottom of this. But I think the big thing that we actually need to do is get better data on what people are doing on social media. And for that, we need to put pressure on platforms. We need to negotiate with platforms because as researchers, and this is not only in South Africa, this is across the world, we are shut out from access to data on what people that we are studying are doing on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it might be. So more pressure to get better data to actually understand what people are doing, to understand whether it does harm or benefit their well-being and how it might harm or benefit their well-being.
A couple of things there. First of all, do we know what social media is?
I think that's also an important question here. It's a moving target. Social media 15 years ago, it's not the same thing as social media today. And social media in 5 years' time is also not going to be the same thing. The features are evolving. The affordances are evolving. The content is evolving and so on. So I think getting closer to that. If you think of today, it's far less about your network and who you communicate with and far more about broadcasts and streams and algorithms. 5-10 years ago, that was much less important.
All right, so those algorithms are the important thing. But you're wanting information from those platforms. They're never going to tell you that.
There's some recent work that is some positive developments. Facebook is now launching, or Meta at least with Instagram, is launching a pilot program with academics across the world to give them access to limited data on participants' behavior on Instagram. It's not enough, but it is a start in showing that the platforms are at least open to this type of collaboration.
From what you've studied so far, as a parent, should we be worried that our children's mental health is becoming an issue, or is that the problem with this research that you say that isn't fantastic and we don't really know?
I think as parents, we should always be concerned about positive things and negative things for our children's mental health. But I think having a broader perspective and understanding that no one thing alone can support or harm their mental health. We need to have this idea that mental health is not monocausal. It is complex.
The irony is that you need to use social media to train children to not to use too much social media. How else are you going to get to it? Of course.
And that's where I think the solution is there, rather than bans or age restrictions. We need to think about when children hit the real world, they need to have these digital skills to be able to manage misinformation, disinformation, bullying, all of this type of stuff. Digital literacy, media literacy, digital skills is very important these days. And I think banning or outright age limits prevents children from having the ability to develop these types of skills. Right. So I think a lot more attention on these media or digital literacies is important these days.
Yeah, I was going to mention the banning. I dislike banning, but people jump to that very quickly to say, well, why don't we just ban TikTok? The Americans have done it. We can do it.
Yeah, it does seem to be the flavor of the week at the moment. And most researchers tend to be opposed to the idea of banning, as they don't think it really solves any problem that may exist there. It might give the illusion that a problem has been solved, but as we know, children and adolescents find ways around bans. It's pretty easy to circumvent these types of bans. And most researchers tend to believe that focusing on digital skills, media literacy, digital literacy is a far more robust way to protect adolescents from anything that might be out there.
Doctor, okay, what is the timeline now to find out more information? Is this just an ongoing process, Doc?
This is an ongoing process, and it's been ongoing for 15 years or 20 years since social media has been invented. People have always been concerned about what's going on there. But I think now that there's at least this pilot program, I'm hoping that with more pressure on platforms, we'll gain better access and more access to data to actually properly understand for whom, whether, why, how social media might be harmful or beneficial.
Dr. Douglas Parry is from the Department of Information Science at the Stellenbosch University and a co-author of the study.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
I think we got time for one call before news headlines. We've got news headlines, sport, finance, and traffic coming up. Everything's after 8:30 now. John Herrick is my name. Let's go to, is it Chakaz in the Eastern Cape? Hello, Chakaz.
Yes, it is Chakaz in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
John,
Yes.
we have a dilemma here as foreigners. I'm a holder of ZEP permits, and it's not being renewed.
Yes.
And some of the people who lose their jobs when they go to UIF, they are not getting their monies, and they are saying those people, they don't have valid permits. And yet, the government is including us on a two-pot system. How is it going to work when already we are failing to get a UIF with the ZE permit that has been extended, but they are saying it's invalid? The same applies when you want to go to renew a PDP. They are refusing to renew the PDP. When you want to go to update your documents at the bank, they refuse to update those documents at the bank.
Because
so how
is that because your ZEPs are not being renewed?
Yes, they say it's not a permit because it doesn't have a current date or a current extension.
Okay,
Yes.
I know they're speeding. They say they're speeding that up, but you're not experiencing that.
Yeah, but already it's not yet there. So how do we enter such a system? The government must come out in the open and say, what's the position of foreigners on the two-pot system?
Right. All right, Shagaz, we'll get on to that. We'll see if we can get answers to that. What is the process of foreigners? Also, what's the process of the renewals of the ZEP as well? They say they're increasing it, or the speed. Let's see what comes out of that. You're with SAfm. It's 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the Electoral Court's virtual hearing of the MK Party's bid to nullify the 2024 national and provincial elections will not proceed today. This after the matter was removed from the court roll and referred for case management. The extradition application for the two siblings accused of involvement in the murder of South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane is expected to resume today in the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini. And the airports company South Africa says partial services have been restored to Cape Town International Airport following the take-off and landing of aircraft. A power outage at the weekend saw the grounding of aircraft. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder, if you're driving in or out of East London, you might want to do it this afternoon, early, sort of around lunchtime onwards, or face the possibility of some lengthy delays and lengthy detours. The road is effectively closed between Kai Road and McLeantown, so that's the Stutterheim East London section, if you like, because of a cash in transit heist, and it is quite a long way round. You'll probably find yourself being diverted down into Bishu and then back along the N2, so maybe travel later today to avoid that particular scene. The stationary vehicle on Joburg's M1 North at William Mandela up by Four Ways has finally been cleared. The backlog is still with us though. Bayers Nordia down to Rivonia Road remains very busy for this time of morning. Mike 1 under pressure from Boyson's right through to sort of Houghton Estate, Melrose territory. A crash going into Pretoria on the N14, still slowing traffic at Euphias Road, but it is starting to ease. Durban, a collision on the N2 in the roadworks before the Kwamashu exit, so coming through from Umhlanga, that's very heavy. There's also just been a crash on the northbound side before Umhlanga, so that's going to start to backlog. But that southbound collision by Kwamashu, if you're coming in from the airport, try the Umhloti exit and go along the M4 Routes First Highway. You'll get through quicker. Cape Town collision, N7 south at the N1, so coming through from Bosmansdown was busy, and still piles of traffic coming very slowly into Cape Town from the south. The M5's at Ottery up to the N2, the M3 badly backed up beyond Constantia right through effectively to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I know you're watching the Olympic Games, but I just want to let you know the Sharks won a rugby match this week.
Yes,
it was a big surprise.
Who's a Sharks supporter anyway?
Me.
Oh,
just me.
Just one. I mean, let's move on.
What's
ahead.
happening in Paris?
Yes. Today, our update from Paris. Our athletes set to compete in various events. 11 this morning. Alexander Pietenel will take on the equestrian jumping event at noon. Brandon Valhalo hits the skateboarding street prelims. And the SA women's rugby team, they'll face Great Britain at 2 o'clock this afternoon, followed by Alan Hatherley in the men's cross-country cycling. Now at 10 to 3, Johannita Scholes competes in the badminton singles. And later, the SA women's hockey team clashes with Argentina at 5:30. That's later tonight. We also have Tatiana Smith and Peter Coetzee will swim for gold in their respective finals at 22 minutes past 9 this evening and just after 9:30. You can catch it all on SABC Sport. In the meantime, Tori Husk stunned the American teammate and world record holder Gretchen Walsh to clinch the women's 100-meter butterfly gold medal yesterday. Walsh turned first, but Husk chased her down to touch in 55.59 seconds, with Walsh second in 55.63 and China's Zhang Yufei adding bronze to her Tokyo Olympic silver. Tennis action, Rafa Nadal. He set up a blockbuster showdown with Novak Djokovic at the Paris Olympics by battling to victory over Martin Fucsovics in the first round despite a thigh injury. Nadal won 6-1, 4-6, 6-4. The 38-year-old Spaniard, a singles gold medalist in 2008 and a doubles champion in 2016, showed resilience. Nadal is participating in only his 7th tournament of 2024 and recently teamed up with Carlos Alcaraz in the doubles tournament. Now, Andy Murray made it through to the second round of the men's doubles with Great Britain's teammate Dan Evans. Murray and Evans saved 5 consecutive match points in a super tie break on their way to completing a 2-6, 7-6, 11-9 victory over Japanese pair of Taro Daniel and Kei Nishikori. Rugby action, yes, as John said, the Sharks dominated at Ellis Park. They had a win. Incredible for them as they took down the Lions suffering their first defeat, 35-22. Cheetahs edging out the Griffins, 47-45. Pumas thrashing Griquas, 66-26. The Bulls staged quite the impressive comeback, beating Western Province, 50-34 at Loftus. And you can catch the Bulls again in action. They're facing the Cheetahs on Friday. Formula One news, George Russell disqualified from the Belgian Grand Prix after his teammate his Mercedes actually, not his teammate, was found underweight, handing victory to Lewis Hamilton. This means Hamilton's 105th career win, with Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc completing that podium finish. And that's how we finish off your sport on SAfm Breakfast. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
Thank you, Zai. More sport coming up at 12:30. Let's go to business and Ntweleng Lechela with our last update for the morning. What's been happening with Ntweleng, there's worries that saving money might be bad. What's happening?
Now, John, a number of economists have been pushing for a rate cut, saying that inflation is steadily easing. Investec's chief investment strategist, Chris Holdsworth, is one of them. In a Business Day article, Holdsworth warned that monetary policy could soon be at its most restrictive in almost 2 decades. He said that leaving interest rates unchanged was a bold move, considering the positive trend in inflation. Now, the SARB predicts that inflation will be below the 4.5% midpoint for about 3 quarters, starting from the fourth quarter of this year. Investec's predictions are even lower, with inflation expected to drop below 4% by October. Despite this, the market anticipates 3 to 4 interest rate cuts over the next year. However, if the Reserve Bank's inflation forecast is accurate, interest rates will still be at their highest level in 19 years by the end of the year. This move poses 2 risks. Investec says the MPC could put SA into a recession, even with inflation in line with or lower than the middle of the band, and that there could be damage to the central bank's credibility given unnecessary tight monetary policy.
And then the most worrying financial news I've heard in a long time. The price of coffee. What? No.
I knew this might get everyone's heads turning. Well, consumers should prepare to pay a little extra for their daily fix of coffee. That's even more, John. This comes as big coffee chain stores like Starbucks have warned of price hikes. This as the price for coffee beans continues to soar. Now, the prices for Robusta beans, a market fave for instant coffee, have jumped to their highest since the 1970s. Higher quality Arabica beans hit a 2-year high earlier this year. Now, the big issue in this market is bad weather conditions. Droughts in Vietnam, a major producer of Robusta coffee, have led to a global shortage for the 4th consecutive year. Meanwhile, dry weather in Brazil has reduced the Arabica crop, resulting in smaller beans. As a result, the price difference between Arabica and Robusta coffee is now very little. This has forced companies to look for lower quality Arabica beans rather than the typically more affordable Robusta beans to keep costs under control.
And what's happening in the markets? Markets opening in about 20 minutes or so?
That's right. Local markets, as you mentioned, set to open in the next 20 minutes. It'll be interesting to see if we can keep the winning streak going. Local traders eyeing local manufacturing data being released on Thursday. Big news this week will be from the Fed. Traders will be looking out for commentary from Jay Powell around inflation. Ahead of those moves, the rand has been steady, trading just under the 18.30 mark to the dollar. Moving over to the US now, Wall Street futures in the green 14 ahead of second quarter earnings from Apple and Microsoft. Now, there's been a rotation out of tech stocks of late, and investors will be watching those reports closely as they could spark a rally in that industry. Moving over to Asia, those markets still upbeat, on track to end off the day in positive territory. Traders in that region really jumping onto the rate cut euphoria, with analysts pegging in a rate cut in the next few months.
Thank you very much, Ntweleng. Let's share out more business with Ntweleng again tomorrow. Just having a look at the price of coffee. Instant coffee. 185 bucks, 165 rand. You can buy a cheap one for 125 rand. You know, when I make instant coffee now, you know, in the old days, you just took a spoon, you poured it into your cup. You took the spoon, poured it into your cup. Now, you put it on the spoon, and then you tap off a lot of the coffee, and then you just like that, and then you pour in less water. Because look, 124 rand. This one, there's one for 189 rand 99. 200 grams of Brazil instant coffee. It's ridiculous, and I need it. It's morning. Now I'm doing morning show. Now they raise the prices. That makes sense. It's 20 to 9.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Africa Update on SAfm.
Advocate Sipho Mantula's had a little morning resting. Good morning to you. How's it going? What? I've got to put the button first. There we go. There, now you're on. Go ahead. How's it going?
Refreshing morning, John, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, the best coffee in Africa is from Ethiopia, and it's very cheap, by the way.
The Kenyans will disagree with you there. Yeah. What's happening in Libya, though? I see there's some interesting. After floods, they're putting officials in jail.
John, you'll recall that last year in September, we had a massive storm of Storm Daniel that affected the Derna coastal city of Libya. Now, the courts in Libya yesterday, they jailed 12 officials in connection with the collapse of this dam, Derna, where many people lost their lives. They have charged them with negligence, premeditated murder, and a waste of public money. You'll recall that this is one of the dams that also affected some of the areas in Libya, in Benghazi, particularly in the coastal city of Derna.
And in Nigeria, Boko Haram Islamist militants are being convicted.
The 125 of them, John, were being charged with what you recall the 2014 Bring Back Our Girls, the Chiboko girls that were kidnapped between 2017 and 2018. This is the second trial that many people have been charged and sentenced, and now we have 125 who have been charged, and also the financiers, those who were financing the terrorism and what they call terrorism-related offenses in Nigeria. Others were supposed to go to the International Criminal Court, but Nigeria opted to charge them and sentence them.
Interesting wording, bordering on terrorism financing, and so on. I wonder why they use the word bordering.
No, correctly. You know, when you look at the bordering of terrorism, you'll understand there's financing of it. There are issues of massive kidnappings and killings. And it is important that African member states have to have their own ways of prosecuting them and sentencing those who have been charged for those terrorism offenses.
And a possible military coup was pushed aside in Niger?
That was last year, if you can recall. Mohamed Bazoum was overthrown by a military coup led by General Diana. Now, others are saying Bazoum is still remaining defiant despite the detention. He's reading books, he's been brought some food, but there is no communication at all. He has been detained under house arrest with his wife, and he still insists that he is the president of Niger, despite that they've lifted his presidential immunity, which others they say could lead to his trial.
And what is the army doing about that?
The army, if you can look, John, in the army, they are trying to actually prosecute him for him also relying on the U.S., relying on France to help him. But it seems that the generals are going to be after him now because they are saying he's still under house arrest. He still have to answer for what he has done.
And so what's happening between DRC and Kenya?
You look at Tshisekedi is criticizing the controversial and the person who's in trouble now with the Kenyan President William Ruto for mishandling the Nairobi process. Remember, the Nairobi process was to mediate the conflict in the Eastern DRC. Now Tshisekedi accuses Ruto for taking sides with Rwanda, and that's why he said that those peace processes have collapsed. It was under the former President Uhuru Kenyatta who was supposed to lead that mediation, but Tshisekedi coming out very clear and criticizing President William Ruto on this mediation process.
And what happened today, 29th of July?
79 years ago, the passing of what you call a Xhosa dramatist, an essayist, a critic, a novelist, historian, biographer, translator, and a national poet. We are talking of Samuel Edward Kurune Mqhayi. So when you think in Eastern Cape, they know him very well, writing many books in 1914, Icala Lamawela, the lawsuit of the twins. Nelson Mandela also called him the poet laureate of the African people. He also contributed in our national anthem, Nkosi Sikelel' iAfrika, which also has been used in Zambia and Namibia. And finally, in 1935, he got the Esther Bedford Prize for Bantu literature. Asante sana, John, as was stated in a conversation, SAfm observing the International Mandela Month.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our transactional banking solutions. Accessing our transactional banking solutions means you'll get a dedicated manager from the country's best relationship bank. When you have a dedicated relationship manager, their business is to understand your business and its financial needs. By understanding all your needs, they can connect you with the right sector and product experts across 15 key African markets. You see, there's transactional banking, then there's transactional banking with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Good morning. You're speaking to Anonymous from Cape Town. I just want to make a comment regarding to what Dlamini from the EFF said. She talks about accountability. Now, the leadership of the EFF, Julius Malema, Floyd Savambo, all of them, the leadership, the top 7, I think, why are they not taking accountability? I mean, a fish rots from his head. So why are they not taking accountability? It's pointless cutting the small boys, chopping them underneath, but the top brasser are still there on top. So they must take responsibility. Julius Malema must take responsibility. Floyd Savambo must take responsibility for the decline of the EFF. Or not the decline, but incapable of increasing their votes.
Take more voice notes throughout the program. You're with SAfm. It's 13 minutes to 9.
Nothing beats the feeling of relaxing on your couch after a long, hard day, getting rid of those work clothes and feeling the freedom of being in your PJs. Throwing off that lace front, undoing your hair, that makeup, voila, gone. It's going to be a quiet, relaxed night. Well, not on S3. Bring a whole lot of vroom to your weeknights with Top Gear Season 16. Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. and Top Gear specials such as Top Gear from A to Z and Top Gear The Races. Friday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with BBC Primetime. Only on S3. Open up.
The South African hockey team will be highly focused on switching off any spark of attack from the Argentine in the women's Pool B clash. However, the South Americans have a vivid assignment to silence the African Queens. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa versus Argentina on Monday 29 July at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes. For the love of the game.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Greatness has a way of overcoming all the obstacles. South Africa is readmitted into the International Olympic Committee. The Afrika Dzonga flag was flown by marathoner Dan Dow at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games Barcelona 1992. Elana Meyer rose to the occasion with a silver medallion in the women's 10,000 meters. While tennis doubles pairing of Wayne Ferreira and Pete Norval grabbed another silver.
Second and silver medalist representing South Africa, Wayne Ferreira and Pete Norval.
Team Africa Jibembe. Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we started this morning around Gauteng with crashes in all the wrong places, and we sort of end rush hour with exactly the same thing. So we've got a collision now on the N1 North before you get to the four-ways, William Mandela exit. Now, that run through from Randburg was already heavily backed up because of the earlier breakdown before William Mandela. That scene was cleared a while ago, and then this collision scene. So traffic remains heavy from Bayers and Nordia on the run through the four-ways. Also, a crash on the Mike 1 at Athol, Oakland. So that traffic, which was badly backed up this morning, stays heavy from Boysons up through the Crown, through Parktown, through Houghton and in towards that Melrose area. And there's a crash on the N3 North before Giluli's interchange. So heavy traffic again pushing back towards the Germiston area. Pretoria's all eased up nicely. The N14 collision going into Eupheus Road. That is out of the way. Durban's N2, the crashing going southbound towards Kwamashu is being cleared. That is easing the flow through Gateway, but it's been replaced by a crash on the northbound side in the roadworks just after Kwamashu. So delays building up towards Gateway again, towards the airport. There's a bit of a backlog coming out of Schlanger on the M4, just out towards Lelucia and Virginia Airport on your way to Durban. That's very slow. The N6 route just north of East London remains closed due to a cash in transit heist. If you're moving between Stutterheim and East London this morning, expect some delays there. Cape Town, no traffic lights on the busy Monday route of the N2 at Victoria Street, right in the heart of Somerset West. So the N2 is under queuing pressure both ways. Crash on the N7 south at the N1, and still some really slow traffic coming out of the south this morning. The M3's backed up solidly from Constantia all the way into Newlands, all the way past UCT, right through to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
8 minutes to 9. Kathy's up after 9 o'clock. Now, though, let's talk about whistleblowing. In the US, the Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco has launched a pilot project by the United States Department of Justice that offers financial incentives for individual whistleblowers reporting wrongdoing. It's a big step in transparency within US corporate and financial sectors. But what's happening in South Africa? Tebogo Kaas is the president of the SASMME Forum Politics and Business. Tebogo, good morning to you. Do we have financial incentives for whistleblowers in South Africa?
Good morning, John. And I must at the outset hasten to correct that I'm actually engaging with you in my capacity as chair of Public Interest SA.
Oh, excellent. Okay, sorry, apologies for that. Chair Public Interest. All right. So do we have incentives?
No, we currently don't, and it's very surprising, or rather, disenchanting that we don't, because if you think about it, whistleblowers are integral to anti-corruption efforts because their disclosures often include information that threaten the rule of law. And if we are to really want to advance the rule of law, we need to be able to protect those who shed light on malfeasance. I mean, if you just mentioned the US, it's one of the countries that offers whistleblower rewards. That, amongst others, includes Canada and South Korea, for example.
When we talk about incentives, what are they doing, and what would you like to happen here?
Often, when whistleblowers engage in such disclosures, they find themselves in most instances, being maligned or actually retaliated against. And then the weight of the state or the companies or entities upon whom they are blowing the whistle often use their resources to make life difficult for them. They may shun them out of the employ, stifle them, litigate them, through what somebody referred to as a slap litigation, and it takes resources for whistleblowers to be able to, first of all, ward off such litigation. You might be aware that today, for example, Patricia Mashale in the Free State, who blew the whistle about certain misconduct within SA Police Service, faced 2 years of litigation by the police. By the police system, police service itself. And if it was not for the likes of Whistleblower House, who came in and made sure that she could cover her lawyers, she could be able to at least make it to cover certain expenses that she didn't care around the process, she would have been perhaps be exposed to litigation that may actually even found guilty of fabricated charges. But obviously, we'll await the judgment later today. So, but also, often whistleblowers, they are breadwinners. And once they are shunned or their life is made difficult, it affects their families from a health perspective, from their livelihood, and just being able to maintain the kind of lifestyle they were accustomed to as a family, and never mind as individuals.
We currently
So providing such reward will help mitigate such hardships that they otherwise face.
We currently have the Protected Disclosures Act. You just want to tweak to that? You want to just change that a little bit?
No, a complete overhaul.
Oh.
There are many limitations within the Protected Disclosures Act, and it's not only the PDA that is at issue here. It's also the Labor Relations Act and many other related pieces of legislation that talk towards protecting whistleblowers. So we believe that the time is opportune for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development to actually relook into how all this piece of legislation talk about protecting whistleblowers, basically improving the whole whistleblower ecosystem. And that is what we believe the new bill that ought to be introduced must do, that just revamp the entirety of the PDA. Because there are limitations. For example, the PDA only talks about an employer and employee relationships. It doesn't talk about a relationship where I, as a supplier to a company or a department, may actually observe or be invited or encouraged or coerced into doing wrong, or whether through fraud or stealing money. And therefore, it doesn't protect me as a supplier because it talks about an employee and employer relationship. So we need to make sure that it actually covers all angles as much as possible.
One of the issues, Tebogo, is if you start incentivizing, people start making up stories.
No, you're quite right. I mean, it is the case that oftentimes such incentivizing whistleblowing may have negative effects, such as a rise in false reports. I mean, certainly you cannot avoid that possibility. But the fact of the matter is that those who make false reports can also find the consequences of their actions, because if their motivation was only to make spurious allegations of wrongdoing, they open themselves up to being litigated on. So the law would be very clear, and the rule book could be thrown at them.
It's a very slow process. Government doesn't work in days; they work in months and years. So
I know.
When do we expect any changes to happen?
I know. We first engaged the Department of Justice in February last year, and only towards the end of last year they issued a discussion document. We hope that with the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, they can actually agitate for a speedier introduction of the bill, but we don't think that's even necessary. The ministry itself ought to be looking in terms of saying, how can we make sure that we pick up from where we left off last year from the last previous administration.
All right, we'll leave it there. Tebogo Cast, thank you very much. Chair of the Public Interest SA, urging the Department of Justice to explore incentivizing whistleblowing. What do you make of that? You can get that conversation on Twitter and all the other things as well. Don't forget, all of these conversations form part of the podcast that we offer you on SAfm. If you don't know about that yet, then you're a little behind. SAfm.co.za. typing it in as I speak.za. And then you scroll down to the bottom and you will find out. Find all of the podcasts, all the interviews, and I think there's some additional information there as well. Sports and the dramas and the book readings and everything you can find on our website, www.safm.co.za. And as always, the conversation continues on our X. I'm going to call it Twitter. It's on our X account. We'll call it X. It's on our Twitter account at SAfm Radio. You can find all the details there. Thank you very much for the messages that have come through. And thank you very much as well for the welcome. It's a pleasure to be with you for the next, every morning, really. It's bright and early. I don't know how you do it, but we'll get used to it. We'll get used to it together. Thanks to the team for putting the show together as well. Zai's back again tomorrow with more sport. We've got business and finance all between 6 and 9. Kathy's up next with the talking point. I'll be back with more sport at 12:30. Have yourself a lekker Monday.
In our top stories, Electoral Court removes MK party matter from the roll and siblings in AKA Tibbs murder case back in Eswatini Court. Good morning. The Electoral Court's virtual hearing of the MK Party's bid to nullify the 2024 national and provincial elections will not proceed today. This after the matter was removed from the court roll and referred for case management. This comes amid the MK Party's recent withdrawal. It was followed by the Electoral Commission's request for the Specialist Court to proceed with the matter in which the party made serious allegations about the credibility of the elections. Kenny Mapanga reports.
Prior to the withdrawal, the MK Party turned to the Electoral Court alleging serious voting irregularities in the May polls. To support its claim, the party attached an analysis in its papers alleging voter discrepancy of just over 9 million votes. The IEC in response filed an opposing affidavit submitting that the MK's application is founded on what it terms as a litany of wholly unsupported assertions.
The extradition application for the two siblings accused of involvement in the murder of South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tibbs Mutwane is expected to resume today in the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande were arrested earlier this year at a house they were renting in Mbabane. They had previously abandoned their application for access to the contents of the murder docket. The airports company South Africa says partial services have been restored to Cape Town International Airport, allowing for the take-off and landing of aircraft. A power outage at the weekend saw the grounding of aircraft. This has left thousands of passengers stranded. Since yesterday, the power outage affected runway lights as well as rescue and navigation services. Flights could neither land nor depart. They had to be diverted to other airports. Airports company South Africa spokesperson Ernest Mulibana.
AXA confirms that runway lights and navigational aids were returned to service after 1 o'clock this morning, allowing for safe aircraft landings. The restoration of power supply have allowed for 11 aircraft to land. AXA technicians and specialists are continuing with permanent repairs and restoration of the network. However, we are waiting for a clear window of opportunity to execute the required work.
The KwaZulu-Natal Transport MEC Sibuniso Duma has called on taxi and bus operators in the Ugu District Municipality not to protest. The operators are set to embark on a protest today, citing concerns on taxi routes on which some operators have no permits. A notice is circulating on social media warning commuters that they could be left stranded. Duma says the department and relevant stakeholders will meet today to discuss the way forward.
When you have a taxi, you must have a permit, and you know there are associations in all the districts. So unfortunately, you'll find that someone will buy a taxi without a permit because that's where you start. The association must give you a permit that you'll use this route. So I think we're at that point in time that we can't let them